Welcome everyone for another episode of the Group Up Podcast. We interrupt your daily doomsdaying for a special edition as news emerges that Overwatch 2 PvE is not what we thought it would be. So I have brought with me the Group Up squad again to discuss the news and perhaps the lack of news or the lack of what will come. And let me introduce real quick everybody. In the bottom right is my man Samito. Samito, what's up?
Muted.
It's good.
No, he just had nothing to say.
Oh, you're just silent.
I was trying to
words.
think of some words, and I just kind of got jumbled up like a yeah. I can't. I have no analogies. I'm out. I'm blank. It's done. I'm erased. Kind of like PvE's skill trees.
Oof.
Damn.
Oof,
You saved it in the end there, Sam. Good.
I know.
Well played.
You got one. In the top left is my man Freedo. Freedo, what's up?
Hey, everybody. I have brought with me enough beverage to withstand this show. This is a new flask I just got from the Bethesda gear store. This thing's awesome, man. And Red Bull. So
Very fitting for right now.
This is a bourbon day, man. This is a
For real. Might be a bourbon day. And in the bottom left, what is your drink of choice, Flats? What are you huffing today?
I don't have a drink of choice with me, but I do got some tequila in the freezer if it gets real bad.
Might be needed. Keep it ready to go because well, I mean, I don't even know how to preface this, fellas. Like, news came for those who've been maybe living under a rock or haven't seen it yet. The Overwatch developers, after a 40-minute discussion on how amazing Starwatch is in a live stream, announced that essentially there's not going to be the PvE we thought it was going to be. That the exact nature of it we're not sure of. We're still not clear of, but it's going to be not replayable, no hero talent trees, not a big campaign drop, but instead a more regular, smaller, what they described as story events and co-op missions to drop their PvE campaign. And yeah, the Overwatch community has exploded. We're sad, we're angry, a lot of reactions, and some of you will have seen Samito's as he's going to get some bourbon, but let's hear from Flats first. Flats, what has been, I'm sure you've already gone over this many times, but for the podcast, for the benefit of myself who has not gotten to hear your take on this yet, how do you feel today, buddy?
I'm more speechless than anything, to be real with you. I don't really have a whole lot to say. It's just kind of trash. That's really all that can be said about it. It's as someone who is an Overwatch 1 vet, played through those 3 years or so, 3.5 years of kind of getting left behind. Feels very tongue-in-cheek of like a lot of the wording. I don't know if you guys read that article. There was that article that came out from Jared and Aaron. It's like, oh, but they're doing way more than we ever did in Overwatch 1. Shut up. Sorry. I hate that so much. It's like, if you were only doing 3 events a season Overwatch 1, obviously you weren't incentivized to do much because it wasn't a free-to-play model. You bought a one-time box price, and then all the events after that were free. You're not incentivized to go crazy with content. Now it's basically what Overwatch 2 is. I can't wait for the Donkey 1.2 video. It's basically Overwatch 2 is a free-to-play update with updated engines and a 5v5 format and a shop. That's what Overwatch 2 is. Like, how to call that a 2 is actually insane. I don't really got anything else. It's more than a disappointment. I think that they probably severely either underestimated how people were going to respond, or they knew how people were going to respond. That's why they started with the 30-minute Starwatch event and then the 10-minute like, oh yeah, but real quick, by the way, PvE kind of canceled, bye. And just like it's just like, man, there was a lot of excuses that were thrown around at the start of Overwatch 2. Like, for example, why do we only have 3 characters? And it was like, there's going to be talent trees. Like, we've been working on talent trees. It's a lot to do. And now here we are. And it's like, oh, just kidding. Not a thing. I wish it was more mad or anything like that, but I'm legitimately just tired at this point. I've been doing this for years. Doesn't really matter what I say about this. I can only just say that it just kind of sucks and it's kind of disappointing. And after season 6, I don't really see having a whole lot of a future in Overwatch.
I mean, that is quite the mic drop moment from, again, one of the most talented and I think clearly loved Overwatch creators to say that. And it's funny to hear you talk about just getting tired, because the Freedo often talks about the transformation of perhaps both me and Flats of just like older and more cynical and more tired, as Freedo then reverts from his older and tired version into a now seemingly more positive and optimistic version. And on that note, Freedo, I mean, I gather you're a little bit less distraught than the rest of the community, but how do you feel?
Well, I am in a way that I feel that we should have seen this coming, because it seemed like a deafening silence when they said the thing that was supposed to earn the 2 next year. Okay, like they were like, Overwatch 2, we got all this stuff. It's a revamp. The minimal content we get for right now, it's because we were working on this other stuff. It's basically what Flat said. But then they didn't say anything for a long time, and there wasn't seemingly any build up, and there wasn't like any ramp up towards it in these months where the year is running out. And I think what we've realized is just how close we are to their development cycle now, that if something changes, like I just think they didn't know. They just weren't sure. They're like, we're working on it. We're not happy with it. Let's say back then, but maybe they had hoped to be farther along, 6 months or whatever it's been since October. Yeah, no, 8. I don't know, more than that. But this feels like a second reset, right? Because there was the great big reset when Jeff left, and they said, we've got to change the business model entirely. And based on the position, but also the way he talks, they changed how I always say Jared Ness, but I think it's Noose maybe.
I think so.
Wait, Noose, really? Hold on, sorry. Yeah, it's one of those days, isn't it? Anyone in chat who got that reference, shout out to you. Yeah, he's sort of the like, we got to get it done guy, because if you've seen him in other chats, it's like, man, I don't know. He almost like he's savage with how like emotionally separate he is from the reality of what he's talking about. You know what I mean? Like there's many times he's like, oh, that's probably not going to happen, so we're just going to cut that. He said that in previous dev blogs, and now he's the guy who's got to come in and bring the bad news. This is kind of like what he was hired for. It's like this whole thing was chaos. And in some way, I got to commend him, because he's got like the hardest job in the room, because you've got this development cycle that's spinning down a drain, right? Maybe going down the same route of Project Titan. And maybe old Blizzard devs would have liked 20 years to iterate on this and try again and try and fail and do the creativity process. But they're running a business over here. So they've got a new type of producer who says, what can you do for me in X amount of months? And we try it. We went that road, and it's not good enough. So in a way, it's like a merging of the Blizzard 1.0 versus Blizzard 2.0. I feel like we're in Blizzard 2.0. They've got to deliver on something, but it also has to be good. There's none of this like resting on their laurels, doing something half good. So I hope that means this lesser scale gives us a product that is, although much smaller in scope, is like good. And I don't think we are there yet, because if you've seen my video about Starwatch, I am not happy about that mode at all. So your knocks against the early build-up about them going into depth on how they worked for, I don't know, how many days on the Doomfist AI. I mean, come on, guys, really? Like the advanced turret placement map optimization. Please don't make me suffer with this when you say there's going to be a big announcement and then you give me that for that. That made it even worse, just so you know. Like you could have made that a separate live stream if you wanted to do that. Like that was the wrong way to go about this. So, but you know, classic Blizzard mistake in not understanding the tone of the room. But so I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty angry right now, and I'm supposed to be the most optimistic. My optimistic take is like, at least this is like a viable product, hopefully, and the best case scenario. But the reality is, we had one reset, and then this is just yet another. It feels like there's been a second reset on the game, and I know Sam feels like the last 3 years have been for nothing. And the truth is, well, that's just kind of how development goes, I think. Like if we didn't get to see behind the scenes with Project Titan, we weren't on the pipeline. They just didn't say anything, right? Like imagine if they showed us an early version of that MMO and said, well, we want to do this big scope of things, then it fall flat, right? Like we weren't brought along with that back then. But now with the news cycle, Blizzard keeps giving us information, and they try to dodge controversy by, oh, there's a new thing coming, but you know, they don't actually know if it's going to pan out or not. And in this case, I guess they bit off more than they can chew.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strands there to what you're talking about, but I will try as well to be optimistic when I can, because obviously I'm not happy, and I just spent the best part of 2 hours expressing that unhappiness live on stream. But we have to try and see this in different perspectives. But I'm curious first, Samito's perspective. Sam, you obviously released a video on Twitter already where you just kind of said you were distraught, you're heartbroken, you kind of feel it's over. Having gotten a little bit more time now to process the news, do you still feel that way, or do you feel a little bit different?
Overwatch 2 is dead. It's dead. This was what Overwatch 2 was. Is the Overwatch the IP dead? No, because there still is the multiplayer that they've obviously been doing better with now, right? But let's not pretend for a single second that the reason why Overwatch 2 was made was for this exact reason of a PvE that was like a new game. There's no sugarcoating it anymore, and that's why I would like to tip the hat to Jared. That takes some freaking guts to go out there and just say it for what it is. And if there had been more guys like that at Blizzard, and God forbid at the upper ends of Activision, I think the company who did the same trash with Warzone 2, I think that their company would be regarded as in a much better state and not the new EA, the biggest joke in all of gaming, the single worst company that is out there on this market right now. And I don't think that, again, I think there's definitely a lot of accountability on Team 4 for a lot of the mistakes in Overwatch's history, right? But this is a company-wide thing. ABK, there's a reason why Bobby Kotick is selling this damn company. Right? And that's because it is so far out of reality of what it means to make good games that it deserves every bad thing that's come its way. But so, yeah, anybody who's trying to defend the idea of Overwatch 2 at this point is pop off the copium. What's done is done. It very clearly failed. Does this mean the end of Overwatch as an IP? No, right? The multiplayer is still coming out with content. It's back on track. But yes, this means that delaying content for this, stopping production for years was for nothing. This game shot itself in the foot for absolutely no reason, for a failed project. And I'm going to politely disagree with you, Freedo, on the idea that this is a part of what development is. No part of development is actively stopping caring for your product in the live service. Now, if you were making a new product altogether and it was its own brand new thing, I would agree with you. But nowhere in the history of gaming has the only shooter to win Game of the Year just stop production to try to do this and have it fail to this extent. Overwatch, unfortunately, now is going to go down as the biggest fumble in gaming history, as it should, more than Cyberpunk, more than any of that. Is it salvageable still years down the line? I think so. I don't think there's any game that delivers the experience that Overwatch does, which is why throughout all this blunder, the core game was so good that it was still able to maintain a decently sized, a well-sized player base. Think about the amount of colossal mistakes this company has made with this game, and yet the core experience and the heroes and the fluidity of the game is still that good that I still don't think that it's had a rival. I still think long-term there is a good shot for Overwatch because it really is that good of a game. But, man, this is frustrating. And I think for me in particular, it's even more frustrating because of how big of a Borderlands fan that I am. And I was really looking forward to these skill trees, man. I have hundreds of hours in the Borderlands games. I played through Wonderlands, which came out last year. And I was playing that. I was like, oh my God, Overwatch 2 ends up like this. I'm going to be really excited because I love that kind of style of game. But there's no defending Overwatch 2 anymore. Don't defend it. And that's kind of why I really respected what Jared had to say. And I really hope that people don't put the hate towards him. He had nothing to do with it. He came in the middle of the mess, right? And to have the balls to say it the way he did and just straight shoot, I think that there needs to be more people around willing to do that. So I'm I think in the back of my mind I expected this. Or maybe it hasn't hit me yet. I don't know. But wow. Can't say I'm not surprised. It's just a complete and utter failure at every level.
And I think that is the key of why we are so upset. And I think a lot of people will look at it and be like, well, why do you guys, what is it to you? You never had, you're mourning the loss of something you never had. Why are you guys upset? And I think it's because for so long, well, firstly, we all love the game. We wouldn't be connoisseurs of this game if we didn't fall in love with Overwatch at some point. Everyone probably listening to this podcast fell in love with Overwatch at some point because they played the game wow, this is maybe the best game I ever played. And to see that go from the best game, as Sam always says, the one shooter to win game of the year, to being so horrendously mismanaged. And I was talking about this earlier, and I was kind of like, remember when Jeff came on and he was like, we're going to redefine the sequel? I guess they have redefined the sequel, because never in the history of sequels has one been so bad. Like, never in the history of sequels has one been managed so badly and fucked up so badly that it would destroy the integrity of one of the best games ever made into essentially a joke amongst the gaming community. And of course, like, you know, we have to try and be fair. And I do think, as Sam said, like, you know, shout out to Jared for kind of just being candid, because, you know, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of all their communication, but at least they were upfront about it. I wasn't a huge fan of that article as well, and some of the stuff they said, as Flats pointed out. A lot of it was just like when you're padding an essay that's due and you need to have 1,000 words, this is repeating the same few phrases about, like, it's not a monolith anymore, guys. We were live service. We want to give it. I'm not really bought by all of that, but it's quite clear that this is a higher issue than just the developers. This is quite clear this comes down from a large part to Activision, because essentially, what, if we were to read between the lines, what the dev said was, look, in the end of the day, we had to try and make 2 games with a team for one team, with the people for one team, and essentially what we ended up getting was half of 2 games. We didn't get 1 game, we got half of 2. We got a half-baked PvP with a lot of features missing that we would expect that other games are getting. Other games like Valorant released later than Overwatch I've already gotten. And we've got a half-baked PvE where, how does this in any way rival to an actually fully fledged PvE game? It almost certainly will not. So you got this like half and half, and you're kind of like left as a guy with rage and not sure where to direct it, because the obvious answer is to point the finger at Team 4, but they're obviously not idiots. They've been handed they've been given a bad hand too, where clearly they need more developers, and for whatever reason they won't get it. So how do we categorize this? There's no way to categorize it other than a complete and utter like failure and incompetence. It's incompetence. It's like something went badly wrong, and it cannot be justified any way other than that. And my one question that I left, and I'll take it to Flats, he hasn't spoken in a while, but like, the one question I was left with, just listening to all that, I was like, well, what were we doing, fellas? Like, what were we doing with our time? This whole thing, the acceptance from the whole community came from this deep down fundamental understanding. It's all for the PvE, guys. We stopped for the PvE. And now they're like, well, the PvE isn't there too. We scrapped that too. So I'm left with the question of like, what were we doing? Flats, any idea?
Sam was raising his hand. I think Sam wants to go crazy.
Oh, Sam wants to go.
I just wanted to add on to something that Flats said before we move on. Flats, you said you were talking about like the Overwatch 2 transition. Let's not forget, we lost features going into Overwatch 2. We like lost the workshop for a while. We lost LFG. Like, it wasn't just, oh, we're upgrading to a new game. We lost stuff because of how the engine works. So we went backwards in some aspects too. So you can go ahead, Flats, but I just want to make that note because it's important to acknowledge that too.
No, you're entirely right. There's actually things that I think a lot of people argue might have been actually better systems in Overwatch 1. One of the big talking points is probably the rank system. The rank system just feels weird. There's like, it's basically catered to not make you feel sad when you lose games, but at the cost of feeling good by winning games. I don't even like when I win anymore. If anything, I like more when I lose, because then it pisses me off and makes me want to play another game to get that back. Like, that's not good. That's really bad. Like, my incentive to play is driven by losing, so that I just want to get that one back. Like, I feel like that's real bad. I don't know. There's not even like forget it. I don't want to rant on that. We can do that another day. But yeah, it feels like we've lost a lot. I think this was a big buildup for a lot of people. And like, if you look at the Twitch category for Overwatch, maybe not today, but like, you know, recently, it's right back to what Overwatch 1 numbers were. YouTube sometimes a little bit still higher on certain ends, but realistically, it feels in a lot of ways we've kind of slipped back into what we saw like 2020 Overwatch. So I'm not saying player numbers are going to line up with content numbers, but they are somewhat related to the point where, like, if the player base is that big, you can see a very small percentage will translate to people that watch some form of content, whether it's TikTok, whether it's YouTube videos, whether it's streams, whatever it is. And it feels in a lot of ways that it's kind of regressed back, which is normal. Like, we're in the middle of the season. However, though, I wonder, though, how many of those people that of that 1.4 million that were watching when Overwatch 2 beta came out. Like people forget like how crazy high, like people thought Overwatch 2's first beta was going to be like, that was it. Like everything, here it comes, and now those people will never see it. Those people that were really excited and were waiting for this time that play other games, they play Destiny, they play Fortnite, they play, Sea of Thieves, whatever it is, that like they've kept Overwatch in the back of their minds for the last few years and be like, hey, like I don't really play that game because its PvP is kind of dog shit, but I really do look forward to playing some PvE and playing the replayability, play with my friends, learn the story. I think it's gonna be a good time. That's gone now. It's robbed from them. And in some ways you got to think why, and I'm sure there was a sunk cost with deciding to ditch PvE. I think it would cost too much money. Like you said, they were trying to make 2 games at once and they didn't have a dev team the size that they needed. You could argue that they should have kept expanding, but they'd already expanded a bunch in the last, year or two. They probably needed to double it again. Because I think they almost doubled their team size in like a year or so. They'd probably need to double it again to get close. I think I was asking what Destiny has. Destiny has like either like 600 or 800 developers just for the game. So if you wanted to go towards that PvE route, I think that it wasn't even close. And they probably also realized when they hit the ground at the start of Overwatch 2, went, oh shit, this game makes a lot of fucking money on the PvP side. How are you going to monetize PvE? We talked about it here before. You're going to throw it in like a premium battle pass? Is it going to be free? That article heavily inferred that it's going to be seasonal. So like we'll probably get like a mission or 2 every season. And it's like, you ever watched a show where you can only watch an episode once every 2 months? Do you know how fucking fast you lose interest in that? You might just forget about it. Unless it was like Game of Thrones hard hitting, like every fucking episode was the best thing ever. You're probably going to forget about it after a couple seasons. And I think the average gamer will probably forget about PvE very quickly once they play the first couple and they're like, oh, like this is fun. That's it? Oh, okay, I'll come back later whenever it comes back. And then maybe they don't ever come back because it just took too long and never made it there. It's not going to be good. And talking about the monetized side, how were you going to monetize PvE? Well, now I think it'll probably be events. Like, there was that tease at one point where like they were sending like the snow, like the Arctic uniforms. Then that actually ended up hitting the shop. That's what it'll probably be like, where you'll have like these weekly or seasonal events where it's like, oh, now they're in the jungle and you can get like Reinhardt with like a bunch of camo on him. You know what I mean? Like, something that's related to the story. That's how they're gonna monetize it. But they don't have to build this crazy PvE to do that same system. They could just make up the like, oh, Starwatch, like, and now we have, space opera, and like everyone goes out and buys all the stuff. So why sink these hundreds of thousands of dev hours into a PvE where you can monetize it, or you just go the simpler route and just do these really small mini events and monetize the shit out of them. It probably didn't make sense to them anymore, and they probably realized that their profit margins would be a lot higher if they just abandon it. And so all of that combined, big corpa plus they didn't have the team for it, plus the time, and it's just we take the L like always.
Sadly. Freedo, I saw you shaking your head there. I don't know if that was in disbelief or disagreement. Which one was it?
Oh, I got all the feelings, man. I got all of them. Yeah, the sad thing is, so Flats is matter-of-factly explaining that really well. But I think what we all know and agree on is that the cost to revenue ratio of some of these things is not so tangible. The reality is skin prices are ridiculous because you charge so much for them, and so the cost to create them and get back for the company is out of whack. So yes, when they look at the bottom line of investing into beautiful.
Sorry to really interrupt you really quick, Freedo. I'm just gonna pull in another friend in a second, so just bear in mind that we're gonna have another entrant come into the call in a second.
Exciting.
The bird call has been sent out.
Oh man, that's gonna drop some heat, I'm sure.
Yeah, so just keep going with your point.
Great. But it builds the power. Investing in other things builds the power of the IP. So whether it's a Netflix show or a PvE campaign, like it gets people interested in the other thing that maybe makes more money. And if Activision was maybe a less pure bottom line type corporation, they might build a stronger IP, which in the end, in other revenue streams, would perform better. But they don't want to do that. And the sad thing is, I don't know. I just feel like it would have been nice if they dedicated to one strategy or the other sooner, because the Jeff vision of the game maybe needed 10 years or something, but they would have needed a separate team in order to do that. And Seagull has joined us. The bird is here. The bird has landed, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Seagull, how you doing?
Hi. Sorry, I was setting up. I'm good now.
Cool.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all good.
No,
Can you get your cam working on here, by the way? Is that something you can do?
Maybe. Not 100% sure how to do that on one PC yet right now.
So I turn your camera off for you, and then do a display capture of the Discord open, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll try.
All right, cool. Freedo, carry on.
Yeah. So strengthening the IP does have value down the road, especially when it comes to looking at other games that do that, and they invest broadly. I mean, it feels like there's a new League of Legends game coming out every other week or something. Like, I can't keep up, like where's our other things? And if we lose this campaign game, or should I say the PvE RPG game that we were supposed to get, and we gain some BS mobile game down the road, I'm going to feel a lot worse, because I expected that also, but I thought we would get more things in general. Whereas it seems like we're still, despite all of the attempts to run away from this, are under the Bobby Kotick view of how to run the company. And that it feels very sour and sad. And with results like this, you can see why Jeff wanted to leave, man, because it probably was the writing on the wall. Like, there was a few times that's been asked in the call so far, what have they been working on so far in all that time? I think the reality was the things that we saw was all of it at any given point, right? So when we played in 2019 at BlizzCon, and we were just like, this feels like Archives Plus, basically, that was what they had for that time. And it wasn't much more in depth of that. They had ideas of what they wanted to do. They had aspirations. And I feel bad for the devs, because especially when there's a controversy, they get trotted out and they use our fandom and appreciation for their hard work against us and against them, against their best interests. So they have to be marketing mouthpieces as well. And Jeff has to come out and say, I want to redefine the sequel. That's what he wanted to do, but then they don't give the resources in order to do it. And all the results we know happened. And I don't know. Like, I'm of two minds with it, because I feel it was mismanaged mismanaged under so many different strategies that it's hard to know which one was worse or what to blame. But all in all, it's like we're just like screwed either way from multiple areas.
That is a very apt way to put it. I will quickly add this thing that Gavin Winter, and I shout out Gavin for having the courage. Again, we've given some props to the devs for having the courage to step up. Gavin's stepping up in chat, and he says, as someone that primarily works on PvP, the PvE is still there in a way I think a lot of people will enjoy. So much love has gone into this campaign. Seagull, welcome to the podcast. Feel free to riff off anything that you've heard there, either Gavin's words, Freedo's assessment about, well, where the vision has changed so many times, where do we even stop and point the finger, or just your own immediate thoughts. We've not deep in this call yet, but how do you feel as things stand? And someone who's maybe the biggest PvE look forward to around.
It's very weird. It's really weird. I think what Gavin said actually is why I'm actually so disappointed, because I'm probably going to have these one-off missions that are going to be really interesting and really fun, but they're not going to actually be they are not going to be built to maintain long-term interest. They're going to be something I play for like, a day or two, get a high score probably if it's like Halloween, right? And then you're going to stop playing. And then you're going to wait until the next mission's added, or the next season, or maybe a new quest comes out, or this or that, right? So it's just two fully different types of content. And I think the reason why I'm so disappointed is not that, PvE isn't dead, but rather it's just going to be a tiny thing of what it could have been. And I know it's going to probably be pretty good. There's the sad part. It's gonna be like, this tiny thing I'm about to get, it will still be pretty good. They'll have these beautiful cinematics, beautiful art. It's gonna be pretty hype. And then I'm gonna play for like 3 days and stop, because it's not content that's going to be meant for long-term play.
Be a one-time experience.
Yeah.
It's that promise of what could have been that really kills, right? It's nearly there. It's nearly great. I suppose that's true the PvP too. We felt that way in the PvP for so many ways, where we're like, oh, it's almost so good to being like a great game, but there's this one or few things that just keep it frustrating. And I guess Starwatch as well, like we can riff on to Starwatch here a little bit as well as some sort of vague indicator of what PvE is. My feelings of Starwatch is that I loved everything about it except the event, except the actual game mode. Like, I loved the idea of Starwatch. I love they're like, yeah, let's have fun. Let's parody Star Wars and do something fun. The aesthetics of it were great. You know, I liked the skins. I liked the comic. I liked all of it. And then you play the event and I'm like, wow. Like, I spent longer listening to them talk about Starwatch on the dev stream than I did playing Starwatch. Like, that's literally what happened, where I played it like 2 to 3 times. And I was like, okay, I did it once on that side, did it once on that side. All right, what next? Like, I'm bored, man. Like, this is shite. So, like, and I feel bad because some developers spent ages being like, I love this and I poured so much heart and soul. And I feel bad for them. It's not their fault. But, like, that can't be it going forward. So, again, I'm going to take a Seagull because we haven't heard too much from Seagull yet. Seagull, like, Starwatch, were we holding too high expectations or did it underwhelm? Did you love it? How did you feel?
I was pretty, I mean, it's a cool limited time event. I think what you said, though, is true. This can't just be it. No, that is it. And that is also probably going to be it in future PvE stuff as well. It's going to be something you probably do in like an hour. And then maybe if you want to get a high score, then you probably just don't play it again. I can see them maybe having one-offs that will be more interesting, right? Because one of the interesting things about them having a smaller scale of this stuff is also gives them a little bit more creativity because it isn't tied to so much like big picture stuff. But I don't see it being, you know, thousands of hours. It's not, or like hundreds of hours. I see it being like a couple days or maybe like a week, right? And so that difference in expectations changes everything. So like when you reference Starwatch, for example, I was interested in Starwatch because they said PvEVP, right? And they used the word PvE in the middle for a second. I was like, oh, that's weird. I wonder what this is. And so I logged on and I was like kind of looking forward to it. And it's like, you shoot some turrets and there's a Doomfist bot. It's like, it is actually a pretty cool mode. I did enjoy it for what it is. Played it for, you know, probably like an hour and a half. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it, but that's a limited time mode. It's not supposed to be something you play for a ton. I would say it did its job and I had a good time and it was cute. It was awesome. But it's not something I'm going to play for a long time.
See, this leads me on to Freedo's point, and I'll let Flash chime in on this first, but this leads me on to Freedo's point about like, well, kind of what we're seeing is what we're getting though, right? And that's the worry, is that we've been asked to go on blind faith for a while, like, hey guys, the PvE is coming, stick around, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be great. And then we get these little fragments, and at every point we're forced to cope and be like, no, that it can't just be that. It can't just be Junkenstein. It can't just be Starwatch. Like, don't worry guys, it won't just be that. And yet at every stage we're like, well, okay, well, where's the next level? I'm waiting for Goku to go Super Saiyan, and yet he just keeps grunting and nothing changes. His hair is still black and he's still chilling there, weak as shit. Like, what's going on? So like, I don't know, Flats. Like, how do you feel about Starwatch? I want to get Sam and Freedo's opinion as well. We'll try and bounce around a lot more now that we got 5 people in here. But how did you feel about Starwatch, and like, how do you feel about like these expectations?
Well, Seagull and me actually played Starwatch. We played as a 4-stack. And we had fun. We had fun for the hour that we played. The only person who wasn't having fun was the attacking tank. You didn't have fun if you played that. The Doomfist bot, like he kind of fed. He was kind of not like, he wasn't like, he was if anything, he was actually a detriment to your team, giving the molt charge. But the attacking team got to fight turrets. That was kind of cool. It was nice. Like, you know, we all kind of learned again why we probably don't want TCP to be back, but that's okay. You know, it was a good time. It was a nice hour of gameplay. It was fun. You know, it was a little unbalanced, and the defending team kind of had counters to the attacking team, plus turrets, plus 4 CP. So like, you know, it was probably not the most fun to be the attacking team of that. But the point was, though, it was still a fun like hour event. I'm cool with that. Like, for me personally, I did not like the Battle for Olympus. I did not like it. I didn't think it was fun. There was a lot of people who did think it was fun. They had disagreed with me and they were like, it's a very fun game mode. That's okay. I think it's okay to have events like this that are not going to be for everyone, and there'll be a little bit of a little bit for everyone over time. And like, for example, they'll probably bring back that event, you know, next fall, and then hopefully there's a new event too, and then you'll have multiple things to play, and it will be a good time. But that's again not really what my problem is. My problem in here is what I expected from PvE in their replayability and whatnot is I stream a lot of Overwatch. I play a lot of Overwatch. If I load up and I start the day 0-4, I've had 2 different snipers who are like, oh, I know these people, like, not having a great time. I could just go over to PvE like, fuck it, let's go play PvE for like 3 hours and go have a blast and do mythics and do whatever it is. That would be a good time, but that's not going to happen because one, you're probably going to get like 1 or 2, maybe 3 story missions a season or whatever, and it's going to try to like keep you cliffhangered to the next one. But like, it's not going to really be replayable for that much. Maybe there'll be like a top 500 leaderboard, and like you can race with your friends to rank 1. That'll be cool for like a day or 2, kind of like how the Junkenstein event was, and that's okay to have those. But for that to be what PvE is, and that's like the future, that's very different than what we were promised and told. And so that's why I'm personally very, very disappointed with it.
Quickly run it to Sam, and then Freedo can kind of give us the last word on Starwatch. But like, Sam, Starwatch as an indicator of like your PvE experience, like obviously we assume it's going to be bigger, but how did you feel about it?
I mean, I kind of treated it in my mind like an archives event, right? Where like I had my expectations very tempered. I honestly didn't expect, like, to me, I had Starwatch over here in my head, and then like what PvE was supposed to be like over here. Just because I didn't want to mix and match. I didn't know how much like Starwatch was going to be like the actual PvE, because I knew there wasn't going to be skill trees. I knew there wasn't going to be that. So I was like, in my mind, PvE is just going to be something like completely different. And it looked interesting, and I agree. It's just it was probably would be fun for about an hour, and then after that, it's, well, what's next? Because when I think replayability of PvE, I think to any of you guys who played Borderlands 3, like the slaughter shaft at the end of the game, where like you have these insane amount of mobs coming at you, and you have, depending on your build, like it just it's a completely different experience every time based on your skill tree, what weapons you have, et cetera, et cetera. And there's, I mean, Borderlands prides themselves on like billions of different weapon types, right, and combinations. But obviously, I didn't expect Overwatch to be like that, but I did expect a little bit more of a semblance with the skill trees and stuff. I think for me, honestly, the only big issue I have with it all is the expectation compared to just what was promised, and most importantly, how long we waited for it. Which is why I am glad they kind of ripped off the Band-Aid. And I'm not trying to throw shade on Starwatch at all. It is like, I'm glad to see them do interesting little mini events like that. I always love playing. Like, I remember in 2016, just being up at like 4 in the morning when my sleep cycle was messed up, just dashing through all the bots in Junkenstein on Genji, and just doing it for like hours when I first started playing it, and thinking, this is freaking awesome. And then they came out with the Uprising event the next year on King's Row, and just like being able to play Genji as a character who I think is just perfect for that kind of like environment, and get it, like feeling the rush of just like dashing through like 10 enemies, because you'll never do that in comp, right? Or in quick play. And I guess, for me, Starwatch was, it didn't fulfill that kind of aspect, but it was still interesting. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's just terrible that they did stuff like that. Like, this kind of innovation is what I want to see more of in Overwatch 2. I think it's just, again, that oversell at the very beginning is the only reason why we might look down dimly at what Starwatch is, or what PvE could have been. And again, I'm too much of a Borderlands fanboy. That's why my heart's broken on that. Like, I just finished playing. If you guys have not played Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, by the way, fantastic. Absolutely worth the play.
I love how frequently you plug it. I love how frequently you plug in the podcast. You're like, come on, everybody, join me on Tina's adventure.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, if I could have played, I can't do this to myself. Go to Freedo. I can't do this.
Hello guys, SCB here. Just want to quickly interrupt this episode of the Group Up Podcast to say that if you've been enjoying this content, then please do consider supporting me directly via Patreon. It really does help, since Patreon only takes about 10% of your money, where YouTube and Twitch take 40 and 50% respectively. So it supports me and allows me to keep making videos no matter how many views they do or don't get. Also, if you are really enjoying this discussion, then why not consider watching some of my other content? First and foremost, my Twitch stream where this podcast is hosted live, and I stream 5 days a week doing a bunch of other things as well. If you're not much of a Twitch viewer, then you can check out the SVB side channel, where all the best bits from the stream go straight to YouTube in highlight format, including VOD reviews, gameplay, and streamer formats such as the Fantasy Overwatch or Rank Gauntlet that you may have seen other streamers participate in. And finally, if you're sick of Overwatch, then you could check out my other channel, The Soak, which is where I do movie and TV breakdowns. And I've done videos on things like Avatar The Last Airbender, Pixar's Up, and anime like Haikyuu. So if any of that sounds up your street, then all the links are in the description. But now, back to the discussion. I love that this side of the call. I mean, it might not be the same for you guys, but this side of the call on my side, Seagull and Samito are both just like the PvE lovers, desperate for more and almost saddened by the promise of it. Freedo, you're more the wider perspective. I mean, I've kind of talked to you privately about Starwatch, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just interesting as a context for what we're kind of looking to expect. How did you feel about what it delivered for Overwatch as this sort of mid-season update?
I'm quite sour on it, not because I didn't like it, because of so much that I did. It's like, so where it was lacking, it's like severely lacking to the point of like, just spend a little more time making something a bit more advanced for me, and I would have liked it more. But the things that are advanced and are amazing are the things they're monetizing, of course, the skins and that connecting to the lore. And while on one hand, I'm almost excited to see, like, do they build on that year on year? That could be good. And in general, like when we start to be able to compare in a year or two from now, and all these different little subplots or even the hero missions or everything else they have planned, maybe after enough time that will feel like a bigger whole. But at the moment, when you eat each little piece, it's like, well, the thing is, I like 2CP. I always liked Assault because it's a more strategical game mode. It's a little slower, a little more based on executing your ults. And I also like having a smaller hero roster. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So having limitations makes for interesting decisions because you have to pick Torb on attack. Oh, that's great. It's like, okay, well, how do I figure out how to make this work? And then I'm like, well, Torb's actually kind of good at fighting enemy turrets. So he's good at like securing an angle. He get poked on the turrets. His ult is more useful than you think. So it's like, that is very interesting to me. But so much of the rest of it, of the complexity I hoped would be there, how dumb the AI is, everything else just feels cobbled together at the last moment. Like it was like, pencils down, we have to ship this. It's like, we got the skins and the lore and that's all great, but it's like, it's got to be in a playable mode tomorrow. And it just feels like it was rushed basically. And I see the potential of what it could be. Now, when we finally do get the stuff that's behind the paywall, which I assume it's going to be behind a paywall or in the battle pass or whatever, with the hero missions, I hope that it has all that complexity that I'm thinking of, and then it might reach like a somewhat viable product. But at the moment, I was just really let down by the lack of opportunity, right? And that's about it, I guess. Like I wanted to love it so much more, and it's not even necessarily about the replayability. It's just like the crispness of everything. It feels like it was kind of cobbled together, and it's not got a grand design of it's supposed to function and play well. There's a lot of limitations. I also think there's a big learning curve to the mode as well. And as we know, Assault is a game mode that your experience is going to go down pretty quick if people are learning like, oh, there's a new engagement. You have to like look out of spawn immediately as the attackers. Like you learn that, and you're going to have a much easier time because you got to clear the turrets. But you don't know that. They jump in, and the whole revive thing, I think, is kind of a miss as well. There's a lot of stuff that I think is just undercooked with the mode, and I hope it's something they iterate on over time. I'm hoping the next one's better, and I hope it gets better in time as well. Like I hope it's not like Junkenstein, where it's just the same. It's like, oh, we made this last year, so it's coming back next year. No. Can we get the Doomfist AI a bit better next time or something?
Yeah, now the turrets move. That's the remix.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that again that is the key of all this, where it's just like my perspective is becoming a little bit more cynical, even though I said I would be a bit more positive. Where again, I'm just looking for that, like, we keep saying, oh well, if they iterate on this, it'll be better, and like that was the whole point of all of this, wasn't it? Well, the whole point of all of this was supposed to be they're gonna take the time to iterate on the things to make that so that when they drop the PvE, it's meaty, it's worthwhile, it's like it gives you that substantial feeling, and yet every preview we've gotten has missed that substantial feeling. Every preview, all I think mostly all of us. I know Seagull and Flats played a lot of the Junkerstein and enjoyed that a lot, but in general, I think the reception has been, oh, that was nice. Wasn't nice enough. It was nice. It's not the whole new experience you kind of sold us. And I think that GameSpot or Games Radar, I forget, article that Flats alluded to earlier, they had a good question. I enjoyed all the questions actually. I thought they went pretty hard on the devs. And one of the questions was, why would someone play Overwatch 2's PvP or PvE? Like, what is the appeal? Because the whole appeal of Overwatch 2 was, hey, this is like a great PvP game, but it also has this whole PvE section. And that question is really pertinent in my mind. I don't really feel they answered it well. They were just like, oh, well, Overwatch is a really optimistic world that people love. And I'm like, yeah, but who gives a shit? Like, at the end of the day, you play in. It can be as optimistic a world as you want when you're getting, like, destroyed by the Widowmaker. You're not going to be too optimistic about the rest of this game. So I don't really, like, that part is not really relevant when we're not really fulfilled with the story. So I asked that question to you guys. Seagull, why will anyone choose Overwatch 2's PvE or PvP even compared to its competitors on either side? I feel like we're flanked on both sides. There's potentially better PvP games or more dedicatedly served PvP games and more dedicatedly served PvE games. So where does Overwatch fit in?
I think there's there is one and only one way out that I see for the Overwatch dev team, and that is creativity and missions that are small scale. So like one-offs and missions that could be like boss fights or really intense missions and stuff like that. Because now they aren't under the burden of creating a whole long-term PvE in game. They could come up with some really creative stuff with the talent on that dev team. But when it comes to everything else, really what it comes down to, I actually take that answer that they gave in the article was basically, if I remember correctly, them responding with, yeah, our IP, like the Overwatch franchise, people are really invested. Like it doesn't matter what we do, people are invested. And so PvE missions, whether they're just drip fed story missions season by season where maybe it's like Destiny style where you get like a week or two in, you get the idea. It's the only place you're going to get it. So you're just going to log on. It's going to do them. You want to see what's going on in the Overwatch universe and have a good time, you'll log off. But the really big question in my mind, also on top of all that, is still what you mentioned. Why would I do this over other games? I don't know, because the PvE diehards, as an example, they are all playing other games. They're not going to be looking at Overwatch in that capacity any longer. So I think you'll just have it as like an onboarding point for people who are just hanging out to the franchise. They get a new season, they log on, play a story mission for an hour. You see some of the lore stuff. They get more invested in the franchise, and maybe they buy some more skins, and I guess that's it.
I mean, Flats, I'm curious how you feel about this. I mean, obviously there has been an influx of new players with Overwatch 2, but I feel like in many ways we're almost less resting on our laurels of like, well, we had 60 million people buy Overwatch 1. I'm sure they'll want to play this mode. Like, is what's on the card enough to draw in these PvEs? I mean, they even said this in the article. They're like, we're not expecting a huge new PvE core, but do you see like an audience building for this kind of stuff?
You might touch your like casual base a little bit more, but like if you mean like people that actually like are looking forward to the next Overwatch PvE patch that are not Overwatch like dedicated players, I don't think it's going to be a big uptick. I think it'll be cool for the current players. I think they'll be able to market around the seasons, being like, hey, next season, we're introducing this new hero, this new support hero, and then there's like 3 missions that go alongside it. It's just going to make the seasons a little bit chunkier, and give people something to play other than playing comp or playing quick play or arcade or whatever they end up choosing. But if you're talking about like long term, like people getting into it and they're really looking forward to it and they're really invested, I think a lot of those people probably just left the room today, and they realize that you need to more than scale your expectations, because we're talking is if something could ever be oversold and underdelivered, this is like really shaping up to probably be a great example. So I almost wonder if people might just come try the first one and be like, yeah, that was cool, or it was okay, whatever the reaction is, and then maybe come back for the second one. I would say there's probably a big drop for the second one, and then I don't know, are you going to keep them long term? I don't know. I guess it depends on how good that story truly is, but it just seems in general they're just swapping to PvP and they're changing their philosophy and being like, hey, we're just gonna go all in on PvP and try to sell skins, and that'll be the whole idea. And the only other thing I could think of is maybe that like I think I talked about it earlier a little bit, is like the Arctic skins. Remember that was shown like when Overwatch 2 released? It was that set of Arctic skins for like Tracer, Rhine. Like let's say the new season releases with an Arctic mission, and now there's in the shop a bunch of Arctic skins for those characters you played in the missions, and like they could tie, more skin stuff to PvE. But other than that, I don't think there's going to be a crazy influx of new people.
Sam, is that kind of the problem? I know you kind of alluded to this as well, where it's like our expectations, right? And I think as well, we got to take into account the wider expectations of the gaming community who we're trying to appeal to. Because obviously the Overwatch hardcores were like idiot addicts, so we just come back no matter what. But the people, the donkeys of the world, will kind of have vaguely tuned in and be like, oh, Overwatch 1.5, I'm out, peace. I'll see you when you actually drop your PvE. And then you drop the PvE, but it isn't, no matter how much they communicate, people still have a vague idea that like, oh, it's going to be this huge thing. And then you play the first mission, it's definitely not going to meet expectations. Is that just going to be like a big problem? Like it just won't hit the way people are still expecting it to hit?
Well, here's the thing. What's tough for Overwatch is that, and this is where we kind of have to take a step back and reevaluate too, there was never a shooter game that came out that hit as hard as Overwatch did when it first came out, right? Never. And I don't think there will be anytime soon. So unfortunately for Overwatch, the bar was set so high when it first came out that based on what's happened now, and I've talked to a lot of my IRL friends who used to play the game, and like they were the only thing they were really looking forward to is the PvE. It'll be sustainable and the game will survive. Like I think anyone going out there saying, "Oh, the game's gonna die because of this," no, but it's not gonna be the game anytime soon. And that's just kind of the cold hard truth with it. Like it's not gonna do what Warzone did in 2020. It's not gonna do what some of the other games are doing now. You know, again, it's not gonna bolster their player counts that that Fortnite and Roblox are gonna be able to right now. Like kind of towards the top with Minecraft because it doesn't have the creative features that those games have. I think, it'll be a casual game for people to come play on the side in the direction where it's going right now. And if that's where Activision Blizzard wants the game to be in a sustainable form, then it makes sense to put the resources into that kind of PvP with the one-off PvE missions, right? And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but, I think that it just, like Flat said, it is just the staple. And I think this actually outdoes Cyberpunk, believe it or not, because the difference between what happened with Cyberpunk and what happened with Overwatch is that Cyberpunk was like trying to do it from scratch and they never really had it. Overwatch had it and then fumbled it. And I think it's much more difficult to fumble it than it is to actually build. Like Cyberpunk was just too big of a project. Like it wasn't ready for that. And I think the timing was also unfortunate too. And I actually liked playing Cyberpunk too. I thought it was a really fun, cool game. But yeah, no, I don't see Overwatch being like that game again anytime soon because of it. I think it'll be a game that people will hop on every once in a while, and they love the feel of their character, their main. Like my buddy Wyatt will hop on and just play Zenyatta. Sorry, Flats. He just likes playing Zen, and he'll hop on with my buddy Blake, who likes to play Reinhardt, and they'll be stuck in Plat Diamond, and they'll play a couple comp games, and then I'll be spectating them in Discord, and then they'll feed to like something I know how to counter, but like, oh, this game sucks, and then they'll get off, and they'll come back on 3 weeks later, and that's just kind of the place that Overwatch has fallen to in gaming, and the competitor in me wants to say that's unacceptable, but I've been around the block enough times over the last couple of years to kind of accept that this is just what it is. It's not, it just, it's a, I don't really know what to say anymore. I'm at a loss for words. So it is what it is, man. It's not great. It's not that. Well, this announcement was really bad for the PvE enjoyers. Like this was like, can I get like 3 abilities on Genji? Can I throw my Dragon Blade that you showed me all those years ago? Can I do something? Like, can I do that? I mean, you don't have to give me I'll compromise on my 20 ability tree. Let me throw my Dragon Blade. Let me, Kimbo J-Cell. Let me do something here. Like, surely, like, that's not too hard, right? Surely that's not all gone.
I mean, Freedo, is it an us problem? Like, because we've kind of alluded to like, oh well, it's like a shift of emphasis again. It's not going to be all this grand thing, and Samito saying, oh, it's going to fall. Like this is what it'll fall to. But maybe that's our biased perspective. Like we have a different approach.
Not fall. I just maintain. Sorry, maintain.
Sure. Well, okay. Well, let's just say it's not going what we kind of expected or hoped it would be, right? But maybe that's an us problem. Maybe the devs are like, this is, I don't know what you guys are smoking. You guys don't understand that like there's plenty of people playing the game, plenty of people buying our skins, and like this is going to serve that end very well. And like what you guys are expecting is like something else, but we'll be very healthy just doing this. Our expectations the problem?
Well, no, because they set them, so that's their fault.
they announced it. Like, wait a minute.
I didn't know what to expect. You told me you were redefining the sequel, then you did it, or did in the worst way possible. So go ahead, Flats.
Can I just ask a really good question, really fast? You make a very good point about player, like if their player count is really good. I feel like if their player count was really that good, they'd be bragging about it more, kind of like what they did at the beginning of Overwatch 2. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
I also just will quickly add to that as well, which is that they always share, even when they do share, they always share like the monthly active users, which I know is like a standardized way of doing it, but like that's also a little bit deceptive because just because someone logs in once a month to like check out the new stuff doesn't necessarily mean they're like an engaged consumer, the way that like on Steam you can see how many people are playing the game at any point in time, and CSGO has got like the highest concurrent viewers it's ever had, and it's like, oh, okay, that's doing pretty well, but it's hard to tell. It's a lot more opaque with Overwatch, where it's like, what's going on behind the scenes of those monthly active users? But Freedo, carry on.
Yeah, I love the premise of this question, SVB. As always, doing a great job moderating. But who's this game for? And I think we're going to really get hit in the face with the reality that what they had aimed to do was going to make an entire new player base. That's what a separate game would have done. That's what the 2 was supposed to be for. It's like there's this whole separate game that's different. And the question is, if you were only into that anyway, are you going to come pay the $10 or whatever it is just to play this mission? Probably not. I'm just gonna guess, right? Because there's so many other much better versions of that out there, even if it costs more, right? Like there's so many great games that exist, so many indie games, there's so much competition, right? I know it's ridiculous, and I said this kind of earlier with the Activision bottom line approach to this. You're never going to get the same return on investment for this kind of thing as you will for a skin, because skins, based on the market, are allowed to be overpriced because they're these cosmetic vanity items for whales. You're never going to get that for this. And I just think I'm almost worried that it's going to go the other way, where if this underperforms, they're just going to keep like the maintenance mode, right? The maintenance mode of it, and just sort of plod along gradually. Because even if, and we love that Gavin joins to, I'm sure he's probably typed more things in the chat by now. He says, they're really proud of what they have. And, if I was able to chip in on how to communicate about this, I would have liked more from the leads there to explain what the thing is going to be. Because you just said everything we told you it was going to be. It's not that. But it's cool. Trust us. It's like, could we have got a clip of something, a bit of gameplay, a bit of like, well, this is how this boss works, right? Because we played in 2019 this PvE type thing, and it was like Archives 2.0. So show me what that is, and I could have maybe felt better. I don't know. Their strategy with this oftentimes is really weird. Like I guess they wanted to rip the Band-Aid off, and we're mad about it now. And then by the time it comes months later, we'll be like pleasantly delighted that it isn't as meh as Starwatch, and the thing behind the paywall is like decent. But you're not. My problem is it's not building that extra player base that we were going to get, and that's pretty sad. So it's just like it's Overwatch 1.2. It's like the PvP players will have an extra thing to do, but I can't see that really blowing the doors off in any capacity, even in the long-term plan, right? Even in long-term, I don't see how this is going to build into that separate player base, because so much of the emphasis now is on PvP, which part of me is okay with, but I always had said I wish they chose one direction. And with everything, they want to split the baby, and as SV said earlier, we're getting half of 2 games because of that.
Seagull, I'm curious to your opinion, because you were kind of nodding along with that idea of like the expectations of like, who is this game for? I mean, your own relationship with Overwatch is interesting, because you were kind of synonymous with Overwatch to start with, then you kind of left the game for a while, now you're back, but I know you were very keen on the PvE. Like, how does this make you feel, like, as an individual, but also how you think the rest of the wider audience will feel?
I mean, how I look at it, Overwatch in general is just how I looked at it was the similar way Freedo did. PvE was supposed to be a way, like, Overwatch as a franchise is like, think of it as like this big old pie, but the people who are interested in competitive PvP are like a small slice. PvE is supposed to be something a lot more widely appealing in a genre that a lot more people are interested in, that's not as high intensity, that would correlate really, or like it would just feel really, really good to have, like, both sides. You have like the sweaty PvP, then you have like a more chill game. And to see the more chill game, it's going to be there, but not really. It's like it's going to be there. You're going to have cute PvE missions. You have these cool cinematics. You have story bits, but you won't be able to play for long-term periods of time. I mean, when I look at it now and I think about Overwatch, I mean, that's what I was personally interested in. I mean, I get to, I mean, you guys play Overwatch a lot. I just sort of step in every once in a while when I go on a binge, and then I just leave and I just come back, and I'll probably just continue doing that in the future, because that's how seasonal model games are kind of designed to be played, right? Like, you walk in a new season, new stuff is out, you play it for 2 weeks, and then you just wait until the next season. If you have a good time for 2 weeks, cool. And that's how these games work. But when it comes to the PvE stuff, mostly I'm disappointed because I think it was Sam was talking about a minute ago. I personally don't see this changing significant amounts for the overall like Overwatch player base or anything. I think if Overwatch wanted to massively grow its player base or anything else, I do think that the current PvP Overwatch is very niche. It is very strange game, right? It's not like attack shooter level of appeal. It's not very simple. It's very stressful. It's got a very high level of pacing, right? There's a team fight every like 30 seconds in Overwatch. A lot of buttons going off. And so I always felt, yeah, exactly. And
Translation.
Yes, and so I've always kind of felt that as a result, Overwatch as a general game, people get into it and then they play for a while, then they kind of fizzle out after a little bit. Whether it's because they just don't have the opportunity to log on and chill as much, or at least that's been my impression for me and all my friends. Naturally, I don't have all the data. I don't have the stats. I don't have the things they have behind the scenes. And so to me, how I looked at PvE Overwatch was them realizing like, hey, our fundamental core gameplay to a lot of people is not very appealing, but we have a very hardcore niche audience that is super into it. And so for them to double down, it's not, I'm not even gonna say niche about it because Overwatch is still absolutely massive. We don't have data numbers, but even just the Overwatch 2 launch and how successful that was, it was on the same level basically as Apex Legends launch from the quarterly numbers they released. They didn't do any in the recent report because they lost China. So because they lost the Chinese license, that they like their monthly active users are all just massively down. They're not going to post those because they lost the entire region. But it's, yeah, basically, I don't even know. It's going to be strange.
I mean, it's interesting to hear Seagull refer to Overwatch like this, niche game, where it's a very weird and odd game because, again, it kind of, it bursts as here's a chance for FPSs to be accessible to a lot more people, right? And that's how I got into Overwatch. Like this is my first FPS. I had never played an FPS before this, and I was like, oh, cool, I can play, this Reinhardt guy and not have to aim. And it's only now that I've gotten into all the aim heroes and all that. But its initial appeal was in its broad, a broad player base, and now we've kind of like, are we almost doubling down on a smaller player base? Like, what's going on in your POV? Like, is this going to prevent us from competing with like these other games like Valorant and Apex? And does that even matter? Like, does it even matter that we're not having that appeal that they do?
Let me like make a difference here between like the franchise Overwatch and the amount of people who can draw in occasionally is absolutely massive. But I think there's a difference between that and the people who are genuinely very invested in the gameplay of Overwatch 2 as a game in the long run are two very different audiences. Like, I don't think that Overwatch as a game, in terms of a hardcore PvP player base, has the same level of staying power as Valorant or Counter-Strike. Because in my view, most people, given the amount of raw size that the audience that the franchise brings compared to the audience that I see who's very deeply invested in the gameplay and like the nuance and everything else, I don't see people getting that hardcore into the gameplay as I do in other games from my experience.
And why do you think that is? Just because of just the complexity of it, like you said?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I think it fundamentally it could be, there's a million reasons. That's a whole topic.
Yeah.
But that could be a lot of things like, like you said, the community is built for so many different, trying to be so broadly appealing that it kind of doesn't appeal to anything specific, right? Something like Valorant or CS, you walk in, you immediately, this is a competitive shooter. Like I'm a competitive shooter. I'm very serious. Overwatch is a little bit of, we are the game that has everything that nothing else will have. No other game in the world has the diversity of characters of things like, yeah, so I'm a ball and I just roll in a circle, and then I'm the Genji and I dash at you, and I'm also Soldier 76 Call of Duty guy. And then occasionally, if I feel like healing and I just don't want to like aim at anything, I just play Mercy and just like fly around. Like no other game has that. And so it appeals to very, very many things at the same time.
Well, I'll reframe my question to Flats then, because this is something I was talking about on my stream reacting. I feel like the ultimate death knell of Overwatch is the master of none, the jack of all trades, master of none, right? Because in the article, Aaron is talking about like, actually, we've got more coming in Season 6 than we've ever had before. Like, we got the story missions, we got this new game mode, we got, this, that, the other. And I think I totally get that from Aaron's POV, because he's probably like, damn, we're delivering like these 8 things, all like sizable chunks of development time. But I think for a player, you're often like left just unsatisfied by each of them individually, right? You play the one thing and you're like, it was okay. I'll try the other thing. It was okay. So like we're never really satisfying this one core itch that, like, again, the Valorants perhaps are, the CSGOs are, where it's like one thing we do it really well. Whereas we're kind of like, we got a little bit of PvE, a little bit of PvP, a little bit of arcade, like a little bit of lore. You know, like we're kind of are we in the middle too much?
I mean, it depends on who you ask. If you ask Blizzard Corpa, absolutely not. They're doing the best thing possible because it's the most amount of people that they could capture, right? Like the most amount of people that are interested in even somewhat. That's another potential customer that'll buy something. You know, if you limit yourself down, you lose a lot of potential buyers, right? Like if you're a hardcore competitive shooter, if you don't fall into that hardcore competitive shooter category, you won't play the game, right? So Overwatch does a little bit of everything and probably casts a very wide net. But in the best way I can think of this is, well, you know, you could go to like a really nice steakhouse for their steak, what they're known for, or you could go to the shitty buffet and get a little bit of everything, but it's all kind of shit. So it's like that's kind of where we are. Is we're at the shitty buffet where we got a little bit of everything, but it ain't that good. But it's like, hey, you get a little bit of variety, get a little bit of spice of life, as opposed to the really, really good, like, oh god, that was like probably the best steak I've ever had. You know, and I guess it depends on what your kind of style is of what you want. Um, but
Well, lots
you
of
are
people
right.
like buffets. Lots of people like buffets, I guess.
But I mean, buffets are fine, but if everything there is kind of like not that good, it's like, you know, you're gonna go to like the $200 steakhouse, you're gonna go to the $10 buffet. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, nothing wrong with a little $10 buffet every now and then, but that's what Overwatch is that every now and then. It's not the all the time type of thing. It's like, fuck it, we got nothing else to do. Like it's a Tuesday, might as well. Why not? Right? Like we're not the go-to. We're not the place that everyone aspires to be or wants to go. We used to be for sure, but not anymore. And I think that Overwatch is unfortunately going to probably be stuck that way because most of the competitive players feel that they have been neglected and that Overwatch does not care about the game. The comp system doesn't feel very good. And, you know, there's a million, I don't want to go down that road. There's a million things there. And then on the casual side, a lot of the casual players think that it's too competitive driven. And it's like, oh, all the pros and the streamers, they ruined this game, you know? And so it's this endless battle between the two sides, which one, no one's winning. And two, you know, it's just like at the end of the day, is the content really to the point where it's like you wake up really excited to go play? I don't know. That's a really hard question to answer and depends on who you ask. Probably makes them a lot of money though by casting that wide net. That's probably the real answer there.
I'm gonna take it to Freedo first, and then I want to hear from Sam afterwards. But like Freedo, is this a cynical take that we have? Like it's like kind of, well, at the end of the day, it's the most money driving way to do this. That, you know, just get a little bit of money from everyone who logs in a little bit, but we don't need a core audience to satisfy. Is that a very cynical approach? Are the devs going to be like, no, that's not what we're trying to do, man. We want people to care. It's just, you know, this, that, the other. Or is this the deliberate strategy? Like, yeah, you chumps, you don't understand. We're going to make a shit ton of money from doing this. So forget what you guys say.
Well, it has to be sustainable. That's for sure. And I think we can separate between those that make that decision and the devs. Like maybe is the producer a dev? Maybe, but I tend to think that's more like the management decision-making side of things that maybe negotiates with the even upper management at that point. So ultimately, like, I'm sad because of how cool the potential I was sold on is, but I'm somewhat happy that they are at least making a decision towards something that I think they can accomplish. Now, what we'll get when that's accomplished might be at a lower level, but I'd rather have like a very, I'd rather them have a very polished version of something rather than aspire to something that just like is a huge letdown. I think that's better ultimately. And so yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about this exact subject, to be honest. So that's kind of how I'm feeling. Like I think there's secretly in this update a lot of good news for PvP players because there's new modes, there's a team queue coming next season. What? Randomly, didn't see that coming, did we? So I was most happy always about the other side of the game because I felt that could draw casuals away so they could develop the PvP to be less casual. And I think what we're kind of stumbling on is almost regardless, we're always in this middle point anyway. And what else can they really bring besides new modes and some more hardcore elements like the tournament mode that's been fabled to be in development for 100 years, and Team Q and other things like that might be interesting. I mean, I'm just going to go on a limb and say that half of our call is going to be in the Team Q at least for a week, right? There's something to do, right? Like that's something. And the new mode that's coming out, I wish. Why didn't they say more about any of the good things? They're just like, here's a bunch of bad things. Here's the names of a bunch of good things, but we don't know what it is. So it's really difficult to be as optimistic as I could be if they reframed it differently and said, we want to commit to do the thing that we have confidence in well, and this is what it is. We saw a picture of the outline, right? but we got an outline for the PvE years ago. It was going to be a whole, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard for me to have any faith in what that is and the execution of it. It's just a plan on paper at this point.
Yeah, and we will discuss that in a second. I want to give Sam a chance to talk on what we've been talking about. But Sam, any thoughts on kind of what we discussed? And then we'll actually talk about this roadmap and what we're actually supposed to be seeing in the coming seasons.
Could you reiterate the question one more time before I actually go on a random
there's
tangent?
a lot of thoughts there about like, well, who's the audience? Are we kind of taking a wrong approach to?
I mean, look, obviously we took the wrong approach. I mean, I think that's why this stings so bad, is because the big question becomes like, if this exact announcement had come out at BlizzCon 2019 with all of this stuff, or even right after Echo came out, I think the response would have been very, very different. Where there wasn't a gap of basically 3 years that Overwatch creators, players, people who love the IP just generally stagnated and suffered. You know, I think the reaction wouldn't be what it is, right? But I think because of what it costs to get to this point, that's the big issue. In terms of like what our target audience is, right? It's just a casual gamer at this point. Competitive, I think, is long gone. Long gone. I think this game's competitive integrity kind of stopped at like a little bit after Roll Queue came out. And it's hard to make people be, well, you know what? I would say it's hard to make people be interested in a competitive game that's not really getting too many updates, but like games like CSGO exist, but they're very hardcore, kind of like Valorant, you know, where it's like, hey, we're serious. We're, you know, like we talked about earlier. I don't know. I think Overwatch certainly is in a bit of an identity crisis, and I think that going forward and focusing on the PvE is going to help it get back out of that. But yeah, no. I think the biggest issue is what it costs to get to this point, when very clearly this could have just happened in mid 2020 or even 2019 when all those resources went to Overwatch 2. And you know, I got no problem with the company ringing the register, right? As long as you put out a good product consistently. I hope you make money off of it, because that, on paper, unless you are Activision Blizzard, incentivizes you to keep updating that product and making it very, very good. And this is, by the way, this is not, again, I don't want to throw Team 4 under the bus here, because this is a Activision Blizzard thing. They gutted Warzone for me too, so like that really hurt. Right, I miss my Rebirth Island. Like they just constantly are making new stuff instead of incorporating new good stuff with the stuff that's already been beloved. And I don't know. I was so set on skill trees that this is why this is a big disappointment to me. And to answer the question, is it our fault that we're cynical? Absolutely not. This is what they promised. They were saying they were going to deliver, and unfortunately, this is the consequence to that.
I think the loss of skill trees is definitely one of the biggest things, and it's
that
interesting
adds so much depth. It
does, and it was definitely fun and wacky. And actually, it's interesting because we've seen essentially those get repurposed for arcade mode. So Battle of Olympus was like, you know, probably those abilities were just skill trees, and the April Fool's patch almost certainly was just like yoinked from skill trees. So we got like a taste of it, and ironically, those are probably some of the most things people have enjoyed, right? People really love the April Fool's patch. I remember people being like, leave this up, like we want to play this all the time because it's kind of wacky and goofy. And maybe that speaks to like Overwatch's audience, but let's actually talk about what they said is actually coming. So I'm just gonna pull up on my side, although they're very tiny, and don't worry guys, we don't have any more information than what you're seeing on screen either. So we're gonna have to interpret the hieroglyphics of the images that we have of what is supposed to be coming. So let's run methodically. Season 5, so next season, Quest Watch and Mischief and Magic. Let's start with what the hell the fuck these two things are, as we try and you know, play dev interpreters here. Seagull, you're usually the best detective when it comes to these kind of things. What is Quest Watch and what is Mischief and Magic? Your best guess. Let's go.
Just new limited time modes that are just absolutely weird and silly because the devs are running free because they just do these weird ass little modes and they have a good time. I have no idea what to expect.
I mean,
that's it. I got nothing.
He's got nothing. Freedo, you're often another very good dev interpreter. I mean, is it just one of those things where we got to shrug and go, I don't know, we'll see what they cooked, or do you have any vague idea of like what might be here?
So we had talked earlier about Starwatch. This has to be another version of that. Now, hopefully not 2CP again, I'm going to guess. But the image looks amazing. It looks like the art and the skins and voice lines. I bet we can expect all that to be really cool. It's a little weird they're doing these back-to-back, I feel, because it's like Starwatch, the Lore Watch. It's like, what, we're going to do one of these every season? That seems a little like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It seems repetitive, I guess, to jump from thing to thing. But I'm excited for that, because I think that is maybe one of the strongest thing Overwatch 2 is doing so far, is like really letting the characters breathe. But there just needs to be more development into it. So I don't know what that mode is. I would imagine it's not competitive, if I had to guess, because maybe it's like a more PvE or something. That's what I bet. I bet it's like a mini version of the hero story missions that we're going to get. That's gonna be my guess.
Yeah, it feels like one of these will probably be a Loverwatch type thing, where it's maybe like a browser-based game, because it seems unlikely both of these go in as in-game events, and I seem like the art as well of Quest Watch. It makes it look like a mobile game, like like something you would play like on a Clash of Clans or like a Rage Shadow Legends. You click on this castle, and like you can enter the castle, and you got your 3 guys, and you should buy more gems if you want to play the next part.
Well, it does say limited time mode, right? So that I assume that means it's in the game. But yeah, I think you're right.
Loverwatch was also advertised as that, though, wasn't it? It was like, this is a limited time mode, and then they took it off. So I mean, we're all speculating. We don't really know. Flats, any thoughts on Mischief and Magic before we kind of give up on the speculation? Like, I mean, what do you think?
I think I'm probably just gonna wait and see and just keep my expectations on the floor. And like, if it's good, sure. Otherwise, it lives right over there. That's where my expectations are gonna live, right in that circle. Right, hang on, wait. Right about here. See, this looks like I stood here earlier. You can see it looks like a toe print. That's where it's gonna live, right there.
That's fair. I think it's a good home for it. Sam, the one other item here, obviously, is the cinematic reveal. That'll be interesting. I mean, Summer Games, I think we're all just going to go shrug. Okay, great. Lucio Ball again. Let's go.
I can't wait to not stack
a third ball. A third Lucio Ball. Let's go. So I don't know what, maybe they'll come in surprises, but obviously we're going to have to keep our expectations low. The cinematics, I know you're a huge fan of these, Sam, and you talk often about how the Dragon short kind of inspired you to play Overwatch. So we got, this seems to be the Sojourn cinematic. I think that's her dog, Murphy. So, I mean, what do you think?
Murphy. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm excited about the cinematic. I mean, Dragon's got me in the game. It's the second best game trailer behind Skyrim's, right? Which is just, I think, if any game trailer ever beats Skyrim's, like, just give them an Oscar or something, because that would be, I don't think it'll ever happen. I don't know, man. I'm not expecting anything. The good news is I think we're all ready to be parents, because I feel like a parent waiting for their kid to come back with the report card thinking it's going to be an A this time, and then it's like, nope, buddy, you got to C again. All right, well, you know what? You tried. It's like, I did that all too many times, but like, dude, I don't know. If it's something like Loverwatch, I guess we'll maybe see like a Wizard Junkrat love arc with Roadhog. Who knows what's going to happen? They can do their thing, sure, but I have no expectations anymore. I keep them at the ground. It's, we'll see what happens. And I think that's the best thing the Overwatch community can do. We'll see. The cinematics, I'm excited for the cinematic though. Like, can we get a show? Can we get, like, listen, if there's no resource on PvE, can we get like, I'm not doing this to myself.
Seagull, you were gonna say something.
No, I was just saying, you guys, I mean, what expectations are there? It's a limited time mode in the middle of a season. They're always the same. You play them for like an hour or two, maybe grind out something, and then you stop. It's not, if anything, you have no idea what they're going to be, because they're always weird. Like, the modes themselves are weird, right? But you know that it's generally fits the same slot, right? It's like a little bit of a throwaway mode. It's going to be fun and it's cute, but it's not supposed to be anything crazy. It might be a little bit crazy, but not going to be a crazy amount of time played, if that makes sense. Like, something like, oh yeah, Loverwatch, yeah, that stuff's psycho. Who does that? That's cool. Like, it's fun as hell. I'll go do that, but it's not going to take more than like an hour or two, probably, right? Because it's not supposed to be. But it is a cute side thing to do. That's what I expect out of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I want to quickly allude to something, because Sam's brought it up, and in the Season 7 and more, before we discuss the rest of Season 5, because there's some interesting stuff there too. But in the Season 7 and beyond, which it could mean, when we're 50, some of us are closer to that than others, but, it could be it could be any time in the future. It says Season 7 and beyond. It says cinematic debuts. I was curious about this, because we have cinematics. So what is a cinematic debut? And it leaves room to interpretation. It could be as mild as, oh, well, it's just a new hero debuting with a cinematic. But Sam brought up the TV show, right? And this is another area where I feel like the whole Master of None analogy applies, where I think you look at other games, you look at League of Legends, Dota, Cyberpunk, all revitalized by a great piece of visual storytelling, right? Visual media. I again feel like maybe Overwatch cut that in favor of trying to tell that story in the game, right? Because I think the devs looked at it and they were like, okay, people love Overwatch's world, right? They love that thing. Let's give it to them. And I think where other devs were like, in the case of like these other games, they were like, well, we're going to keep the game as a game and we'll just like ship it out to some team on Netflix aside. You guys go make that show. We'll keep doing our game thing. And then, you do your thing, produce it, and people will come play our game. Awesome. With Overwatch, it feels like maybe if there was this discussion of like, how do we tell the story of Overwatch? The answer went, well, let's do it in the game. And I feel like that's, again, kind of muddying the waters of the resources, where they're going. Because now we got the same people who are trying to make the game also trying to tell this, like, story mission. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, where it's like, maybe we sacrificed a TV show in favor of trying to tell this in the game.
Which would have been awesome. But yeah, maybe it'll come back.
Yeah, right.
Seagull?
I was thinking, I don't know, because I don't know if it's really that direct. I think it's more interesting that everything seems to have such big sacrifices attached right now. It's either like, oh, you get this PvP thing or you get this PvE thing. And there's always the big question of like, all right, why do you guys not have enough resources to try and pull off both? And I understand a lot of the business realities of why that's so difficult. But when it comes to TV show and outside media and stuff, it is definitely absolutely the biggest miss they've had in since launch, that they weren't able to pull it off at any point since then. I agree.
Okay. Right. So Freedo, this one is, I know, very much of interest to you. 5v5 mini comp season. That's just kind of dropped in there, isn't it? It's like, that's a tournament or something, like a team queue is some sort of coordinated stack setting. That's just kind of dropped in nice and quiet. Like, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I sort of alluded to it earlier. I think because they only are going to put a percentage of emphasis into tending to the garden of PvE anyway, and to your story point too, like, we are finally getting story in the game, but my expectations are a little bit low because the hero mission will be limited, but probably good and clean. And then they said there's like a lore codex, which, if I recall correctly, was it Destiny 1 that was like famous for having story that you had to read and everyone hated it? Like, that's like the most famous example of that. That's what it made me think of. I'm like, I hope it's not like that. I don't know if they explained that at all. I can't remember exactly, but I think all they have to do is tend to the PvP community, the wonky, weird mishmash of players that we have, and give us things to do. It's like, what else are they going to do? They might as well try this. Well, they're out of cards to play, right? So for so long, they said that this was an impossibility. Like, no one would ever play it. It wouldn't be possible. We begged for it forever. So now at least we're trying it to see if we can even sustain it, even for a limited time, because similar to Mr. Heroes or whatnot, it's not the full season. It's in a smaller little time window. So maybe you only end up playing it a day with your friends. That's going to be like probably the vast majority of players don't grind this mode. It's like you go in, you realize how hard 5v5 comp Overwatch actually is with how brutal some of the strategies are. Or if my assumption is they have to, I recorded a video that isn't out yet, but I said it in this one that's coming to our channel. I assume they have to reduce or eliminate the queuing restrictions, because their original argument of why we wouldn't ever have this is that not enough people would do it. So it's got to be loose enough for you to be able to actually queue with people. And if that's the case, you get very lopsided matchmaking. And honestly, like, it's been like a small disagreement between me and Flats on this point. Flats is of the opinion that the whole MMR quick play thing needs to go. And I'm like, people really hate if there's like one Hanzo that's 3 ranks ahead of the lobby. Like, you know, I've played quick play with Sam before. It gets brutal in there, man. I mean, like, we actually, I played a duo with Sam in quick play with Lifeweaver, and we were like, oh, this year looks pretty good. No, it's just matchmaking is brutal if the skill differential is bad enough.
It's a bad game. That was a bad game.
Yeah, I mean, we were rolling people in quick play for like blowouts every single game. Like, but what I'm trying to say is, like, this is the game I wanted to play. This is what I've asked for, so I'm excited to see it. But we'll see if a lot of the devs' defenses of why we could never have it before come to fruition because of the realities of getting people to actually play a team queue are either too brutal. People don't like it because the game's just going to be a lot harder than you're used to in your solo queue experience. Not only will it be harder, but it's sharper in a way. Like right now you're used to, there's a Pharah that no one's swapping the counter or something if you're in plat. Well, now that's going to be amplified because they can run strats and coordinate with things like Symmetra all of a sudden looks a lot better, or Sombra. Like, you don't know how brutal your life is as a support until a Sombra comes out of Invis and calls a dive on you. The gap of performance of a little bit of teamwork is going to be so much harsher than you're used to. Whereas in Overwatch 2, as it stands now, there's a little bit more room to like bob and weave and solo Q-esque and just hit some shots and maybe you can carry enough. It's going to be a brutal mode for a lot of people, and it's going to separate the wheat from the chaff. As we were saying earlier, it's like, which community do we try to promote? I think for the people that like this mode, they'll really like it. But I wonder if it's going to ultimately be the failure that they've always said it would be anyway. I like that it's a separate queue. So it means it's a separate rank, right? So you don't have to get precious about your rank. Just like go in, try to play with your friends, and you'll realize how bad you actually are at the game when your excuses are gone, right? Like me and SVV teamed up for a thing, and then I VOD reviewed. I'm like, oh yeah, I speed boost on Lucio incorrect every time for 2 maps. Like, oh great, like it was my fault the whole time. My bad. That happens, right? If you don't fundamentally do something right as a team. And anyway, that's how Overwatch is. I think it's beautiful, and I wish that part of the game grew, if anything. So, water that seed, and let's see if we can become a mini Valorant at some point in terms of our community, their appreciation for the competitive aspect of the game. I think it's got the bones to do that. We just don't have the players yet.
It will be really interesting to see if we can grow that, actually. And Gavin agrees. Gavin says, I'm really excited to be running this mode because it can teach us a lot. And actually, funnily enough, I was just yesterday, I'm on a Genji arc at the moment, learning Genji for 7 days. I got coached by Jake yesterday. And after the session, he was kind of telling me, he was like, yeah, man, like, people literally don't know how to play this game. Because his coaching style was very, like, top down. It was like, okay, you gotta do this for your jungle queen right now. And, like, if that guy's picking Reinhardt on Numbani, he's griefing. Tell him to switch in chat. And I'm like, Jake, I'm one-tricking Genji, man. Like, I don't know if I can tell anyone else to switch. And he's like, no, it's fine, because Genji's fine on this map, but Reinhardt's a grief. He's griefing. Just tell him to switch. So it's like his approach is very top down. And he was like, trying to explain this to me. He's like, no, SCB, like, people, when they play the game, just kind of trash. Like, they don't even understand. Even the highest elo, they do not understand. He's like, all these guys, they're just like, they play on the off hours, and like, just wait till the Overwatch League players like log off and they play in the evening time. Those games are like a next level. Like, you guys don't even understand. Like, if it's like 4 Overwatch, like, there's like 5 Overwatch League pros, and it's like 3 Overwatch League pros, and that guy's got like a Sim 1 trick and a Mercy 1 trick, it's over. This game is over. Like, this is no point in having this game.
That is very true, actually.
And he was like, people need to experience this. Like, people need to experience this version of the game because it's so much better. Like, when you're playing this team version of Overwatch, not based off of like assuming that your teammates will fuck up everything and like trying to do it all yourself, versus like, let's assume and I trust my teammates. Because he's like, SCB, I want you to run in front of your jungle queen and just deflect. Because, like, you know what deflect is? It's like an immortal Reinhardt shield. For 2 seconds, it's an immortal Reinhardt shield. Just walk in front of this jungle queen and enable her like to brawl. And I'm like, I don't even know if this guys know what his Q button does. Like, I don't trust this guy at all, Jake. It's like, I don't know what you're telling me. But, it's like that style. So I also really look forward to seeing if we can fulfill that, like, because that is beautiful. That's what all of us really love about Overwatch. And Flats, I want to take it to you because I know you've, it's been referred to as the Flats question, the stacking question. This is surely something you're very keen on. This 5v5.
I mean, it's kind of tainted, in my opinion, with how it comes out today. Because, like, yeah, it's exciting, but, like, there's other bigger shit on the menu right now. Jake is 100% right though. Like you can like first off, ladder feels like absolute shit. I ended up tilt queuing till like 5 a.m. a couple like last week. Oh my, like I can't even describe to you some of the games and players and stuff I saw. And now I understand why all the creators complain. You ever notice like most of the creators complain about matchmaking or all the nighttime streamers? I understand now. I actually completely agree with them and understand. There's something about it, and it's like actual like gold plat players that are in those games, and it's wild. It's the wild, wild west. But like true, like top level, like you're trying to min max, like you're going all in Overwatch feels amazing. It can feel amazing. It's very draining though. I will say, like every time I've ever played one of those games where it's like 6 Overwatch League players in one game, like by the end, I gotta go take a shower. Like it's like, oh, that was something else. Like I'm not used to that. I'm a streamer. Like I sit here and talk about dumb shit for 3 hours, then have that one game where it's like, I'm like basically a spectator, and I'm hoping that they're in a good mood. Like I just catch like Hydra on a good day, and he's like, he's talking, he's chatting. I played him the other day, and he was shit talking Sam. It was hilarious. But like those types of games are the fun. Like I upload videos all the time of Seagull emailing me, playing quick play or mystery heroes or whatever, and without fail, it's like by far my best performing shit, other than like occasional spectating or TikTok stuff, because people are like, holy shit, you guys are having a good time and actually enjoying what you're doing and having fun, and you get to basically make that experience what you want it to be. You don't have to rely on RNG queue in. You don't have to rely on your teammates picking certain things, because that's what makes Overwatch frustrating. Like what Jake says is 100% true. Like most of the ranks, like even all the way into GM, and there's a reason why those Overwatch League players, like they punish that, like most ladder players, there's no fucking coordination. I played like 10 games of rank the other day. I had one game with me and Karki where someone else talked. One out of 10 games. Nobody says a word. Everyone just sits there AFK. Like that's the new culture of Overwatch. You will never convince them that stacking is a better game. They're already toast. They're done with it. So the point is, at the end of the day, though, is stacking, for me at least, is always a good idea or fun, because I get to control my own experience. But to be honest with you, the game mode will be cool for a couple weeks. I don't think it's actually going to mean anything, because what will end up inevitably happening is everyone will play for like 2 weeks or even like a week, and then we'll go back to regular ranked, just because that's what everyone always does. And real talk, the stacking rule will never change until they implement it for all the ranks. They keep the duo queue rule, because they've always said that matchmaking is a lot better in GM than it is in other ranks because of their stacking. Guarantee if you made stacking a solo queue, duo queue role for all ranks, it wouldn't last a month.
+1.
I will quickly get Seagull's word on this, because Seagull has not been in the podcast. This has been like almost like, again, this could probably go on the bingo card for the group up of the stack queue. Fuck this nonsense. Seagull is someone who's actually competed at the highest level. I mean, do you have any thoughts on all of this and this 5v5 mode?
I mean, it just sounds like it's not. I mean, back when I was a pro, we just stacked. So I'm trying to think back in the day when we did this stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, let me think about this. And I was like, yeah, I mean, when I was in like Overwatch League, what was this 2018 before roll queue? Yeah, you'd have like the Korean 4-stack late night elo guarding everyone. You'd have like the midnight Jonak just logs on in his 4-stack. I mean, Sam will remember most of this. So what I was saying, Sam, before you got up was like, they were asking me about what my thoughts were on 5-stack. I was like, when I was a pro, we all just stacked. I remember back then, it was just all the crazy stacks. West Coast Overwatch League in 2018 led to the most ridiculous matchmaking every night at the same time after scrims. And so realistically, I don't put much stock into matchmaking systems, because at the highest end, there's literally not enough people online to make a competitive game, no matter what. If you put Overwatch League people in the same lobby as anyone that is not an active contenders or Overwatch League pro, they're just going to get slaughtered, and that's just how it is. And so the only way for that to work is via custom modes where people intentionally create balanced teams themselves, because the chances of 10 Overwatch League / contenders players all queuing at the same time and no one's in another game is so low. It's never going to be balanced. So 5v5 mode and having pre-mates and stacks like that, I mean, that's cool because people are opting into the experience they want. Like, no offense, but Flats, if we go 5-stack, we are never going to win a game. I'm gonna I'm gonna put Emong on support or something, and we're just gonna troll and we're gonna have a great time. We're gonna go to Masters and we're gonna keep them from getting GM ever. But you know, we're never gonna be good, right? But the moment we hit GM Flats, we're going to enter into the dangerous era of like the 3-stack Overwatch League / contenders players who are all stacking just to like absolutely demolish streamers for fun. Like that's danger territory. We can't go there. So that's how I expect, you know, us and our experience to be. Yes, exactly. So we're gonna have a great time down there.
We're the 4100 Guardians.
Can I add on to that though? Can I add on to that? That's such an
Sam.
important thing to say because the main reason, and you're right by the way, because when you used to 5-stack and GM or even 3-stack, like the games got very difficult. So many casual people, and when they hear us ask for stackings, if they're like, "Oh well, you streamers just want to roll everybody," we lose a lot, right? It's not about like the winning; it's about the actual experience. And I'm glad you said that because like we've been kind of talking about that for a long time, and it's like, dude, like this streamer stacks would always end up going against even the contenders duos, like the freaking who I'm calling you guys out. Who is the Chopper duo that shoot choppers? Chopper plays for Wisp. They're running around locking Ash Genji every game, and I'm pretty sure one of them's Rocket. Little rats. Dude, they're solo blading me every fight. Like, geez, Louise, I'm on to you guys. But no, it's just like even the duos just farm us like all day. But it's just about the fun, the experience. So I am excited to see the 5v5 just like Team Q come on, even if it's only for a weekend. Because I wonder if because what it said it was like did it say it was a temporary ladder?
This is a mini comp season. Yeah, mini comp season.
I like that a lot because they could do some random patch. Heck, they could like I think it'd be really cool to see them do like goats for a weekend, right? Like 6v6 goats on a weekend tournament or like just something to spice it up. And like I do like seeing stuff like that. So I do want to say, beside all the doom and gloom and my despair about not being able to get my Borderlands watch, I will say that this does mean that they're going to be able to do a lot of the cool stuff to PvP that we've all kind of been asking for a long time. So I'm excited to see more stuff like that come out.
Gavin says, we aren't any under illusion about streamer stacks. That's never been the worry, which, yeah, we suck. Okay, we get the message, Gavin. We get it.
I know they're not worried about us because they see our win rates. It's
yeah, they know. They know. I mean, Gavin's seen my stream, so he knows what's up. He knows I ain't winning games. And he says it's a mid-season competitive mode. So, yeah, so it is what it is. Okay, let's move on because there's still quite a lot of things.
25% win rate with Tim.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the common denominator there might be something else, but yeah.
Wait, we were playing our main roles at one point. It was still getting a little sketchy.
Okay, quick 2 words on this last bit, which is On Fire returns and Creator Workshop mode. Seagull, you've been a big advocate of the creator, the workshop rather. Happy about this and On Fire?
I think it's cool. Don't care at all about On Fire. I mean, that stuff's cool, but who cares? The one thing actually I missed about On Fire was when you like, you know, used to be you didn't have damage to someone, it pops up with a number, you kind of tell how much damage you did to them. That was kind of nice. That's the one thing that we lost from On Fire. Otherwise, we have a scoreboard, and I get to yell at teammates who go 0-5, so that's fine. Even though it's usually
James
me.
Bond.
Yeah, usually the James Bonds of Samito's world. Freedo,
Yes.
Any thoughts on either of those?
On Fire's being revamped. Can't remember exactly what they said they were going to do, but I think the visual feedback does help a lot of people enjoy the game more, so probably a good thing. I didn't need the old system. In fact, I forgot it was there. Like, I feel like I grew a blind spot on the On Fire bar. I literally never saw it. Even the number Seagull's talking about, I feel like I've just like ignored it so I could look at things that mattered. But people do like it. I'm curious so when they say workshop, I think that means they're highlighting a specific workshop creator, maybe like giving them a little bump in the game. Is that what that means?
I'm hoping they bring back the workshop because that's really important.
No,
Wait, I thought
workshop
it was
is
already
back.
back.
It is back. It is back.
now.
Is it like
is back.
actually back like the same way that it used to be?
Yeah.
What I assume is it's a playlist where you play a specific mode of the week or whatever it is, like that.
Well, yeah.
Do we know what this is?
Well, if we extrapolate, when they had creator experimental patches, just like creator, go make a patch, you play it, right? So it's like, I imagine it's the same idea. It's like creator
It's a card
makes a
is
workshop,
what they call it, right?
Probably,
Yeah.
right? Makes a workshop mode, go play it.
Right. So like
Yeah.
Doomfist Parkour or whatever is like a playlist card, I think.
DPS
Presumably.
Doom playlist.
Maybe.
I'm down for some
Sam
arcade
asked for all the
DPS.
oddball suggestions.
Hey, listen.
I'm very impressed you have not mentioned Overwatch Battle Royale yet, but Maybe I beat you to the punch. Maybe it's coming somewhere along your agenda.
I think discoverability on the workshop is like lacking, and this could help.
Yeah.
Yes,
agreed.
true. One note on the on fire thing. Actually, I had a wacky idea a while back, which is that because a lot of complaints about the scoreboard maybe not being as accurate as it could. I wonder if they could use the on fire percentage to help with that. Like, because the on fire, as Seagull pointed out, kind of relevantly told you like how much you contributed to this elim. I wonder if that is valuable knowledge, right? Because like one elim is not equal. Like you tag a guy, it's not the same as like doing the important damage. I wonder if some version of that can be helpful. Flats, you disagree?
No, it would just be used as an ego tool and be like, like, oh, I'm popping off, or you suck, you're not actually doing much. Fuck you. Like
Each character farmed it differently, if I recall correctly, too. Like it's not necessarily balanced, right? Like anyway.
True. Yeah, I mean, just a stray thought. Okay. So then season 6, which is again actually it sounds close, but it's sadly not. This is like we're now in like September or something for season 6, but we get the story missions, the all important story missions. I mean, I kind of feel like we've discussed vaguely what this will be, but how big a scale do you guys expect? Having heard everything we've heard, how much are we getting when we drop these story missions? Any clue? Flats.
He's just pointing to the floor for you audio listeners.
For podcast listeners, he's pointing to that toe hole in the floor that he made earlier.
Can we get a gif of that, please? We need a gif of that. That's the new gif.
Just like, what are your expectations, man? Over there.
Keeping it there. I'm not.
There's your
moving
new
it now.
emote. There's your new emote, SV.
That's now. I'll have a flat. I have the Samito woke and the ML7 comfort pick from Moira, and now we'll have the flats expectations over there. I mean, anyone feeling more optimistic than that?
I think it's the new Junkenstein times 2.
Do you want to elaborate on what that means?
A bit more. So it's like the new Junkenstein. I actually didn't play it that much, so I'm kind of speaking out of school on this. I wanted to play Starwatch, then didn't like that so much. I felt like the new Junkenstein was a bit more advanced than Starwatch. Do you think that's
absolutely.
Okay? That's the impression I got. I didn't get the chance to grind it like I wanted to, but so I think like it'll have game systems. Sorry, Starwatch, but like it'll have a story. It's like advanced archives, is I think like a good like archives, but modernized to like one single campaign mission. That's how I feel. Like Call of Duty almost. There's gonna be explosions, things pop out. The same story arc like the Overwatch 2 cinematic, where the hero's got to do a thing to kill the thing and blow up, and this guy barely makes it. The whole arc like that. And I feel I can't remember if we said this in this podcast or not. It's been a lot of talking for me. So we originally were leaked from Kotaku that the game it was intended to be Left 4 Dead. Then when they announced it, they were like, it's RPG, endlessly replayable. Blizzard, we do this well. Not anymore. We're going to give up. But like, if it was like a Left 4 Dead mission, I mean, those are like really well respected in gaming, and that's a game people really like. So if it's like the Overwatch version of that, with maybe not like a big skill tree, but maybe a small one of like, I feel like they said on this stream with Jared and Aaron that there's still talents, just not skill trees. So that means there's like small modifications, but not like you're not going to grind a hero and level them up. That's not the way it's going to work. But maybe like through the progress of a level of the mission, I should say, you maybe unlock a different arc to do something else. Like that could be cool. Okay. There's still a road where this is actually kind of good. Like if it's like that, like I'm describing, that could be cool. If the mechanics of the game are good. And what I mean is the boss has interactivity, the mobs explode in a fun way. It can't be archives plus a little bit more, which is what I feel we played in 2019.
Well, the Junker Queen event actually had talents. They were hidden. So for example, Ash's coach gun, if you coach gun someone in a wall, they got stunned. So we actually used a lot of those in our rank 1 run. Because like the Moira at the beginning on the hardest difficulty was just one tapping you with Coalescence. So we realized we could actually stun her into the wall with Coach Gun, and we use that as part of our stuff. And like Sojourn could like damage enemies if you like slid through them or something. There was a couple cool ones, but they weren't like talked about. They weren't advertised or anything. We discovered them as we were playing. So I wonder if it'll be like that.
Interesting. Seagull, any thoughts on the, I saw you nodding at the Left 4 Dead kind of idea.
I mean, I think it's just going to be what you got on Wrath of the Bride this year, except it will have actual story elements and a long-term narrative and probably a cinematic that leads into it. And that way they can start up, because they need to start up the entire Overwatch story again, right? So they're definitely going to have like a nice 6 cinematic, and then they're going to tease it and lead into it. And season launch, they'll probably have the same. I don't expect anything significantly different than the Wrath of the Bride style mission that we just played at Halloween, where it's going to be, you're going to have a mission, except it's going to have a really cool story or this or that. And I love that mission, so I'm down. But I don't expect to be long-term play. And that's where like my line comes from, where, it'll be this cool thing you play through. Maybe if you want to, you play it at a harder difficulty. You can go for some scores. But otherwise, other than that, you're just there for the story and having a good time. And it's what I expect. And the Left 4 Dead reference earlier was because the Wrath of the Bride and those archive style events are kind of like that. Like you have teammates, you're just shooting. It's a horde shooter, right? There's tons of stuff coming at you. There's special units. You shoot them. That's how it works, and it works really well in Overwatch. So I expect pretty much more of it. It'll probably be pretty good, and I'll just be sad that I will only probably play it for like 2 hours and stop, unless I go for like a point push on a scoreboard, which just because I like to see numbers go up. But most people don't do that.
Yo, can I remind us of like the enemy types that they already showed us? Surely those aren't scrapped, right? It's just like the endlessly replayable part of it. I don't know what to expect at this point. But there was like the chick with the hair that like Medusa grabbed you, and like it looked kind of like Left 4 Dead enemies, right? There's the one that jumps on you, the big guy, blah blah blah, right? So that interactivity could be cool. That sounds like a game as opposed to turrets and a Doomfist AI.
Yeah, I mean, again, it might be one of those, we saw it as it came, right? Situations you talked about earlier. It's like we saw it as they were making it. So they were like, hey, guys, we just made this cool Medusa guy. Let's show everyone. Look at the Medusa person. And who knows? We hope that these kind of stuff is there. I mean, we've seen versions of that in the archives with the guy who's like the assassin, and he like runs at you, and you got to stop him before he gets on top of someone.
You guys remember when people were unlocking those in ranked and running around as like the talent agents?
God.
Oh my god! Yeah.
That was crazy.
Oh my god!
We've lived through some wild
didn't last
bugs.
very long. That was very, very quick.
Yeah, that was quick. I don't know how that happened, but
people
I have
find the
one
weirdest
hope,
bugs.
SCB.
Oh,
One
yeah?
hope. And this is where I think Overwatch is still peak, like tier 1, right? Whenever they tell a dark story, I think they do better than any other game than I've seen. Like Sigma's release, like that was incredible. That was one of the least talked about, in my opinion, like excellent like releases that they did. Ramatra's was super dark, right? Like Reinhardt's cinematic, dude, I almost cried. I'll keep it real with you. Like I had like a tear coming down my eye. I really hope the story just is intense. That's my main thing. I think Overwatch has the potential to tell because we never, like, you guys remember when Sombra stuff was coming out? Like there's some massive something out there in the world that we know nothing about in the Overwatch scene that like she thinks is pulling the strings, and then there's Talon going off. Maximilian, who back then, by the way, like I never put 2 and 2 together. Like the Doomfist, like he was talking to Ramatra, like that was the character that they showed. So there's so much unanswered stuff out there that they have an opportunity to make very dark and very intriguing. And I think that the Overwatch team does a really good job of like telling a dark narrative. And I think that kind of intensity can really turn this thing around and tell a good story. So I'm not having any big expectations on that, but I will say I think they do tell a dark story very well. And it's very, very intriguing anytime they do.
You need a Thanos for the Avengers to overcome, and then you invest into that. He's got to be threatening to destroy the whole world. Yeah.
That's kind of Ramatra, which I think is why he's so cool. But we'll see.
But this is the story, obviously. We have the characters. We got all the pieces, right? We just got to put it together.
True.
Or do we?
Well, we'll find out. New support hero. I mean, this would just be wild speculation at this point. So a quick word on that from anyone. Like, is there anything that we really want to see? Like, we've learned now we've got 2 supports back-to-back, Life Fever, or not back-to-back, but close enough. Life Fever and Kiriko. Is there anything that we specifically are like... Not Life Weaver. It's a sad.
I like start like mechanically more intensive characters. Like I love the flow of Kiriko. Kiriko had fantastic flow, and I think everything aside from Suzu is actually like kind of okay. Because I'm not a big fan of the invulns. You guys know this. But I like that style of character. I think is better for Overwatch, especially in a 5v5 format, than like a much slower, no potential character like Weaver. Because like even Brig is like kind of like that anchor tank now, right? And I think they've gotten her to a pretty good spot. But like even Brig, I don't feel engaged when playing Weaver. I just feel very bored sitting there. Like the proper way to play the character is just sitting on a high ground where nobody can get you and just like like, you know, but it just doesn't feel immersive.
Boger entered chat just to give his stare emote as he enters, hour 600 of his life. We were unranked GM struggling.
Yeah.
I was wondering why I haven't seen him in a while.
He's lost all his sanity. He tells me periodically he's just going insane. So, yeah, I mean, any other words on a new support hero?
There's a Lifeweaver rework coming that's not on the roadmap, but I can't remember at this moment. Did they say when it's coming it's next season, right? In the blog post, they said that, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure someone in chat knows. I could look this up as well. Yeah, I'm worried about another Lifeweaver, to be honest, because I think the design of Overwatch 2 is past that, and Lifeweaver would have been more fitting with Assault and 2 tanks. As he stands now, we know the rework is going to like give him more oomph to the things he does, like status effects or a new passive, something like that is like badly required for him to be a competitor. I'll echo what Sam said and just say like, because like Kiriko is one of my top played characters in the entire game. And I think she's like one of the best characters of any game ever. So not just that she's fun, but she like adapted to what Overwatch 2, like the new problems that were being created with Overwatch 2. It's like, this is a character that's designed to fit in that universe, because in the game, when you play with randoms especially, things get kind of chaotic. You got to reposition. There's a lot of different places to move. It's like she can be effective at all stages, as opposed to other characters where they feel like they kind of need their hands held or have to have the right combos. She's an amazing character to play. I absolutely love it. And after enough time grinding, I think I finally got the hang of the kunais as well myself. So I love everything about Kiriko. So another Kiriko would be great for me. But I think I tend to agree with Sam at this point, despite even loving Lifeweaver myself, that we would do well to not have another Mercy-like support. It's like, you got us the one. Now make him actually do something that like has a big enough effect, because the game we're playing suits Kiriko, not Lifeweaver at the moment. Like, you got to do more individually, unless you're in a duo. I don't want to span into another Lifeweaver debate, but in our previous shows, we've kind of made the point that like, it's like okay if you're in a duo and you're maximizing it, but with randoms, it's just not a thing. So yeah, that's kind of what I hope. I also think it's a strange time to add a new support, because they made this decision to design so long ago, and now the support category has reached a level of power similar to Overwatch 1. I saw this amazing tweet suggested to me. I don't know. It's a streamer or something that said it. It's like that was echoing this point that like we've gone full circle to Overwatch 1, where the supports are insane and there's lots of them, but the player base aren't filled with the skill sets to maximize them. So the gap between the potential of what the role does and the players that actually pick that role is the widest of any that it is. And I know that's like a harsh opinion that hurts people's feelings, but I think it's empirically true and like self-evident where you look everywhere. And I myself take advantage of that as someone who loves to play the role, but I can keep it real and just be like, wow, the gap between output and required input is kind of nuts. And now we'll add another option on top of that. I don't know. I love the constant updates to the game, but it as I've said in previous shows recently, I almost wonder if we're actually gaining a better product because of it, because the decisions we're making are kind of stacking on top of each other, and the game's just really wide and complex, and there's a lot of difficulty baked into the game. I don't know. I guess I'm spanning too many subjects here. I apologize, but that's how I feel about a new support, because the support adds so much, right? Like, you add a damage, it's like, I don't know, they snipe or they flank or whatever. It's unless they're Sombra or Mei, it's not going to like fundamentally change a bunch of comps. But not knowing what the support is, I'm just kind of worried, because I already feel it's a very robust role. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's a valid point. I think it'll definitely be one that's worth elaborating on more in a different podcast, probably a specific one for that. But for now, we'll move on, and let's Flashpoint, new game mode. Any idea what the hell is being cooked? And they said 2 maps that's coming with it.
Yeah, I think so. Well, the last game mode we got was push, and we know how much people like that game mode. I'm actually weirdly in the camp that I think the best Overwatch is hybrid. I think that hybrid maps are probably the most fun universally and most balanced universally. Escort can be really, really frustrating on maps like Circuit Royale, even Gibraltar Second, like these maps where you're supposed to have like a hard hold. But hybrid feels much more like point one is the tough one. Point two is pretty easy for the attacker. Point three is where it swaps back to defense. Even control feels like very deathmatchy, especially in Overwatch 2. Even at the end of Overwatch 1, remember it was like Sigma ball / hog ball. Like you basically just played team deathmatch and everybody played team deathmatch and just ran around. Um, I worry about a new game mode. I mean, it's cool. Hopefully it's fun. I hope they don't give us the push treatment where every other game is the new game mode, where to the point where everyone now hates it. Whether it's because they're trying to gather data or whatever it might be. But I mean, hey, like I guess hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's something that challenges us to think differently and have a different style of play. But like always, it seems things start off kind of rocky, so I'm gonna keep my expectations right over there.
Flats expectations. Gavin says, I don't think we'll make that mistake again I think in regards to the perma push, basically. So that's nice to hear that they've kind of already learned that lesson. Yeah, Seagull, I mean, that's an interesting take. I don't know if we have too long to elaborate on it, but yeah, just you feel like Flats, do you agree with him about like, well, we need more like stable hybrid type modes, not more modes like whatever Flashpoint is?
I mean, it's hard for me to say because I just don't know what it is. I thought there were rumors around it around launch a long time ago. I just don't remember exactly what it was, but basically anything that's a new core game mode, I'm down. People don't like push. I like push. I just run around, play Torb, I flank. There's a lot of flanks on push. I have a good time. I'm a simple man.
It's true. Okay, and that brings us to then Hero Mastery. Again, it's kind of hard to speculate on a lot of these things because even the devs themselves gave very little information on like what these things are. Like firing range, some sort of upgrade on the training practice range. Like, what does it mean? Or like how in depth is it? So like, yeah, I don't know if you guys have any instincts on this, but I mean, these seem like welcome additions. Like, we've asked for a long time for a more robust practice range or just ways to kind of like get familiar with the heroes outside of, because let's be real, still the tutorial is you run around in Soldier 76 for 2 minutes and then they're like, go on and play. They don't even explain what the game modes are. They're just like, stand in this capture point. Okay, you did it. Goodbye. Go play push now. It's like, what? Wait, no, wait. What does this bot do? Like, what is this? What? There's 3 people on this one. Don't speed it up, but 3 people on that one speed. So it's like there's a lot of gaps there that maybe some of this will fill. And yeah, go ahead, Flats.
I in Overwatch 1 memed about that because I talked about how much the game has changed since it originally came out and certain things like that never got updated. And so I did a meme run of playing the training or playing the
tutorial.
The tutorial. I did a meme of playing the tutorial and it's still by far my most disliked video ever. People did not like that I was memeing on the tutorial. They're like, what? Like, what? It's just a tutorial. I'm like, it doesn't teach you anything. That's the point. Like, you walk in, you go pew pew, and then you walk in a straight line, and then you stand on this fucking square and goes, woo. And it doesn't even have ticks like Overwatch updates later. It's only one continuous bar. I'm like, it doesn't even make sense. It's not even updated with how the game actually works now. But yeah, I remember that one very fondly. I don't even think people know that the training range even exists sometimes, or not training range, the tutorial, but I don't know.
For real.
Hater.
Yeah.
It's true. And that would also bring just a quick note, that's Overwatch anniversary. So like that brings us to at when that drops a year Overwatch 2, and that's when we get our story missions. Happy anniversary.
So are they moving anniversary now from May to October because Overwatch 2's release? Is that what that schedule looked like?
Oh, true.
Good point.
Because anniversary used to be in May every year, and we get like a little gold skins. There was like the Cyborg or Cyber Soldier and like Cyber Ninja Hanzo, and then the Power Ranger Genji, right, from like the back in the day. So are they moving that to October now, or is that going to be
I think it's still May. I bet it's still May because like it's continuation of the old.
But we didn't
game.
get an anniversary event though, did we? Where we normally would.
I mean, what do you guys think? It's a new game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I guess it is October. Yeah, you're right.
It's
it would have
two,
been
guys.
now.
It's two. Overwatch 2. Come on.
Man, what's the 2 for again, by the way?
But it's not, though.
By the way, when are we in
the
early
shop, I
access?
forgot.
Are we still Are we still in early access?
Are we still well, I remember back like for like Fortnite and stuff, it's early access to avoid like the fees for updating your game on like it's just something. I don't know what it was, but that might be, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't even know anymore.
Early access. Oh, okay.
Perma early access.
It reminds me as well of Hearthstone Battlegrounds, where they were like Battlegrounds beta for like literally like 2 years or something. It just kept saying Battlegrounds beta.
Same with Fortnite.
Like
Same with Fortnite was in beta for like the first like year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is more of a legal thing. Okay, we'll quickly run through then Season 7 and beyond. I mean, again, really no idea what... Oh, yeah?
Did you guys talk about hero mastery missions? Because they talked about it a little bit in the interview, but they didn't really say anything. But that was just this. Apparently, they're single player, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
That was it. I was like, I don't know if anyone saw that. The little tiny piece from the interview was that apparently they're little tiny single player missions. Or something.
They got a cute little image of almost like a VR wireframe thing. So I think it's going to be like tailor fit to the specific hero to do stunts and difficult things that they would do, you know. And so you probably can get a high score, can run it a little bit. I'm thinking like something that was really popular. I'm trying to remember what it's called exactly. Like in Titanfall 2, there was like people would do the parkour test. That's like an example, I think, that you could think of. It's like your character has these mechanics. We'll do it through this course, tailor fit for them. And I would imagine too, it's probably repurposed a bit from some PvE that was going to be a mission or something. And now it's like, well, we'll put it in a little smaller box.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, the image looks like, you know, when you start an RPG game and you wake up in like some training range and they're like, hello, hero, I'm glad you finally woken up. Are you ready to like accustom yourselves with the thing? And it's like, press W to move forwards. You know, that's what it looks like. It's one of those things. So maybe it will be like a way to learn the heroes, which, you know, like alludes to what we were talking about with the tutorial, like actually learn how to play the game a little bit, or at least your hero. So, right. So then, so Season 7 and beyond, new tank hero. Like, so you guys said you don't want another Kiriko. Quick word on new tank hero flats. Like any hopes or desires or expectations?
I will say, you know, as a tank enthusiast, I am happy to get the next character, but man, you DPS players really got the short end of the stick, huh? Support, tank, tough.
Well, not just that, but even so since Sojourn, it's been what? Sojourn and then Kiriko, then Ramatra, Lifeweaver, another
Junker
support,
Queen,
another tank.
Oh yeah, Junker Queen technically.
Queen.
So Sojourn, Junker Queen,
yeah.
Kiriko, Ramatra, Lifeweaver, whatever the next support is, then another tank. Oh, that sucks. That's tough.
I gotta even it out, man.
Yeah, they gotta even it out. Don't worry, guys. Just another 3 years of projectile DPS. The role getting destroyed. We're fine. Nothing we haven't done before. We're chilling. We got Echo. We're fine.
Just play Hanzo.
Nice
It'll be fine.
Yeah. I've actually had fun playing Echo this season. Except for the freaking sticky disappearing bug, dude. When you come out of copy, your sticky just Thanos snapped. Gone. Just like the skill tree is gone.
Damn.
That's gonna be the new thing. I swear. It's gonna be like Nerf Genji.
Oh no, not please, no more. I can't. Don't get me started.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what is being. We'll see. So then, new collaboration event, limited time mode. Do we have any idea what that could be?
Please be Naruto or One Piece. I don't care.
It's Dragon Ball. I think they all said that. I thought a lot of the devs said they wanted to do a Dragon Ball crossover.
Man.
So they want to be in Smash Bros. But
that could be sweet. Listen, all I'm saying though, I do want to give him credit. The One Punch Man integration to Overwatch 2, I think might have been like the best, like smoothest fitting integration I've seen in gaming. Because like in Fortnite, they just put like Naruto and Sasuke in it, and they're just like, you're just running around, right? You know, but and it's cool. But I feel like the way they designed the skins for the characters like fit the Overwatch characters really, really well. So big credit to them there. That was really good.
I agree, and it also I think gets them the opportunity to even more easily, or just as easily perhaps, do all these other little lore watch, Starwatch, every single other little mini avenue they want to go. So PvE, we get like all these like little sub cosplay things into the game we have, which is better than nothing, I guess. They are fun though.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, let's see what they come with. New control map, new winter event. I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical when I read new winter event because there's the real danger that it's just winter wonderland, but with a different snowball. But are we going to be getting actually new things?
Well, SVB, no two snowflakes are alike. So even if it is a new snowball, technically that's a new event.
That's true. You're very right. I mean, it's extra worrying because later on they say fan favorite modes return. So it's like, I'm kind of like past the point where we just bring back old features that we had and then we're like, new feature now because you haven't had it for a while. Like, we did it on. Yeah, literally. I'm really worried that it's all setting up for the return of 2CP. Mode.
Listen, all I'm saying is on 2CP, I got to play a lot of J-Sil. So I'm not complaining. Now I can only really do it on Dorado and Li Jiang. So I don't know. I'm game. Let me play J-Sil.
Flats will lead the anti-2CP charge.
Flats has nightmares of my triple mine tires in his back.
All 15 tanks can lead it with me.
Pretty much. Okay, Roadhog rework, Sombra rework. Any words to that? I mean, at this point, again, another odd thing is that we keep doing these quote-unquote reworks, but like seasons upon seasons after the hero's been a problem, and then like eventually the rework just kind of like potentially makes them more problematic than they were before, and that's kind of what I'm worried about. Seagull, you gonna squinting over it?
Yeah, wasn't Sombra or Roadhog rework supposed to come out sooner than Season 7 Plus? I thought that Sombra was supposed to come a lot faster than that.
Looks like it's delayed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm sitting here going like, yeah, I mean, I know what you guys
make it canceled.
Damn, man, these jokes are all too soon. All these jokes are way too soon, guys. Like,
guys,
the baby has just died.
They might only actually just give you the Roadhog one. The Sombra one, too tough.
The reason for delaying the Brig one was art, because they wanted. I guess it took a while to make that 21x9 shield. So maybe whatever status effect that Hog's gonna get.
I'm scared.
So glad that's in the game.
Listen, I kept my Twitter banner was the new Baptiste window with the goalie blocking a soccer goal for 3 years. Okay, I've changed it. I do not want to change it again. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to have to change it again. They're good banners. They're good banners, but man, let's take it easy.
Well, yeah, let's hope that there are more positive changes. I do think it's like this is one of the problems of the seasonal release is that they can't just like focus on a thing because it requires resources to be diverted. If Sombra is a problem in Season 2, we're not going to fix her till Season 8 because, we already got plans to release these heroes and this, that thing. So it's like, we just like dumpster the hero for now or like, just nerf their numbers hard and then we'll worry about it later. Like it feels at odds with it trying to be a competitive game, doesn't it? Like to just be like, oh, we'll fix that like 6 seasons from now.
I think it depends on what it is. I think Hog needed to have that happen. I think Hog was an open queue 6v6 hero. I think even Hog as a role queue character just wasn't healthy for the game in 6v6. Just depends on the situation. It's too hard to tell. I think the game is more competitive without Roadhog running around basically invincible one-shotting everybody. I like, it just really depends on the situation.
That was a worse timeline. Yeah, for sure.
I couldn't even play the game. It was miserable.
It was awful.
I only played Torb. That was it that season. I just played Torb and tried to survive with my turret on an off angle, and that was not very competitive. So I'm glad that I'm sorry, Hog players, but just no. Had to happen.
No, don't be sorry. They literally got like micro buffed 19 times in Overwatch 1 into Overwatch 2.
You just want to play Ryan Winston, buddy. Calm it down.
They had years. Honestly, Hog isn't even that bad. It's in ranked.
Yeah, it's true.
Got a few maps.
Yeah, there's a few maps, and if you're good with the character.
Remember, they buffed his ability to place you after hooking you, so he's like even better on Well, for example, which I think is kind of cute.
True.
It's a free May pick for me. It's a free May pick for me. Hey, where's my May freeze buffs, by the way?
Please, no. Come on, man.
Excuse me, Sam? Hello?
Come on, man.
I thought we were on
See,
the
that-
same side with this anti-CC thing.
Hey, that's
Listen,
another
they
thing where
said
they're
not
like,
me.
we reworked the hero to not have CC. Oh wait, you guys like a rework? Well, here's the old
I will
thing
say,
back.
Mayfreeze is way better than people say it is. That was a joke. Before anybody gets
Yeah.
a crazy idea of buffing Mayfreeze, it's actually really good. So it's just,
Seagull, you were gonna say something, I think.
I was just going to talk about kind of the broader picture of it's always interesting in live service games because developers are fundamentally time travelers, right? They're always working like 4 seasons ahead, and so how you said everything is kind of set, and so they're just lagging. They have to respond, but they got a little bit of a delay. They come back in like a couple seasons, like yeah, we can fix that. Season 4, yep, 3 seasons away. I got a little bit of lag on this here connection. Yeah, we'll get there when we get there. So they are trying their best. But that's why some stuff like the visual effects thing, for example, you have to keep in mind like the Brig thing. And I remember just as an example, like they probably have to submit builds 3 weeks in advance, I'd say, for certification across all platforms, including Switch and all consoles simultaneously. So probably 2 to 3 weeks to get it build certified for everything. So if you miss the 2 to 3 week cutoff on visual effects for something like Brig, that 3 weeks, that can easily push it to next. So it's like close enough to next season, just push the next season, Stuff, that's just how that stuff works.
Yeah, and those are the realities that unfortunately we have to, we enjoy the benefits of the live service, so I guess that's what comes with it as well. Competitive Mystery Heroes returns. Flats, your stack should be pretty chuffed about this.
Yeah, we're gonna be the gatekeepers of Masters to GM.
Wait, you can stack in Mystery Heroes?
As long as you're not GM, we got to Masters 1 at one point. We were all chilling right there.
Dang.
We had a great time right up until Emong unlocked Duo Q, and then it was all over.
Yep.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
He upgraded himself
my
to having less friends, which is Overwatch in a nutshell, really. Yeah, okay. And then finally, the lore codex. So, Freedo, this is something you alluded to as like, well, it could be great, but is it like a Destiny type? Like, what if this is really like just boring and has a bunch of information that nobody cares to read?
I think I'm trying to remember if I'm making this up or not. The website had more lore on the characters in Overwatch 2. Is that a thing or something like that? They definitely been writing
Yes.
more, obviously. So I wonder if it's like that. If there's like a more advanced version of that. I don't know what it is. I'm just guessing.
Seagull?
They probably need something that covers lore in the game. If now they're going down like this narrative season stuff, right? What happens in 3 seasons? That
True.
your old campaign missions are now gone, right? So it's gonna have the Destiny problem. You walk in the middle of a season, you're in the middle of like a year. How do players know what's happening? So I can imagine a lore codex is something to do with that.
Okay.
I think it'd also be cool. Like, I remember old games used to have this where you could kind of like go to a place and watch a lot of like the important cinematics and stuff. So I remember like Final Fantasy X, when there was like a stadium, and like you can walk into the stadium, and then you click this like panel, and like you can watch all the cutscenes back if you want to, just like refresh yourself.
You know what they should do, SVB?
Mhm.
They need to do that, but make a map of the original cinematic at that museum, at the Overwatch museum, but make that little map with,
that'd
and
be
where
really
the guy
cool.
was playing Hearthstone, watching the monitors. That'd be really cool if they did that. That would be fun.
That'd be a nice touch, right? If you could just walk to
Yeah.
there and then like you get
Yeah,
to
that'd be
explore
cool.
that area a little bit, and maybe you can like maybe the gauntlet is there and you can look at it a little bit and be like,
Well, it's
"Oh,
stolen
this-
now because Doomfist stole it back.
I know. So like maybe something else is
broken
there, and you're
glass.
like, oh, this, that, there, and then like, you can be like, oh, look, let's watch the cinematic, the Heroes of Overwatch or whatever, and kind of explains to you what the story. Yeah, that'd be cool. The devs are like, crap, they just figured out what we're doing, and now like now they're gonna seem like we stole it from them. Okay, I mean that concludes everything that's on the roadmap. Is there anything that you guys want to discuss that hasn't been discussed on the roadmap in terms of like what we know? Maybe something from the article that you want to bring up about like, yeah, there's this thing that they said that they didn't really talk too much about, but I'm interested. This is a free for all. Whoever chimes
Well,
in.
they
can
didn't
have-
talk much about anything, have they?
Yeah, not really.
No, and I will add a point, which is like their communication on this was like really oddly done, and we've alluded to it a little bit, but we haven't specifically talked about who thought it was the good idea to like waffle for 40 minutes about Starwatch, and like no offense to those guys, because they were kind of thrown under the bus. I feel like they were like, hey man,
no,
go
100%,
talk about
100%.
Starwatch and how great it is, and like just go hype about how the awesome stuff you know in Starwatch. 10 minutes before we tell everyone that Overwatch PvE is dead, like it's cancelled, it's gone, go home, right? And it's
Well,
like
it was
those
so
guys.
30
bad
minutes.
for them.
I
Went
know, it's
30 minutes, and the actual thing went 8.
It was really funny because I kept reading the chat and I just see Cloudy type in chat. He's like, but I want to know about the revive mechanic. And it just made me laugh so hard. Like seeing him asking about the revive. It was like Boger typing Winton. You know, you EU main tanks. I don't know what y'all.
They're unhinged, dude. They're unhinged.
They're
Like,
unhinged. They are unhinged. They're funny.
It's
They're really
impossible to
funny.
play tank for a long time without losing your sanity a little bit.
Especially on
Slats
EU.
knows this as well. And yeah, like
Mine's just trauma.
I think I don't know why they did that. I just don't understand why they prefaced this like really important announcement with 40 minutes of ramble about stuff nobody cared about. No offense. Like that should have been its own dedicated section for the people who actually like, I really do want to know. I do want to know what Starwatch, like how it was made and what happened. But don't mix that. Like, you're just hurting everyone in the process to mix it with like, oh, by the way, guys, here's Aaron and Jared. Overwatch is dead. Go home.
Real talk, I thought they were gonna hit us with an ad when they said we'll be right back, and they were gonna like change scenes. If they hit us with an ad, I would have lost it.
I've been
Butterfingers.
okay with it. Put the money back into the PvE stuff. I'm okay with it. As long as it goes back, I don't care. But what am I talking about? They never will.
I have a big question about that. They also have, I mean, they don't want to. Very obviously, they're just like dropping all this, and they just don't want to talk about anything else right now. They're just going to drop it and let people cool off. But monetization is still a big question mark for PvE because I assume it's just all going to be free now.
Yeah.
Because I assume they can't really monetize it very easily. Just attach it to a seasonal model, probably just make it free, and I guess sell skins and skin events. But I don't know how that's going to work. It's going to be
Be on the
strange.
free battle pass.
It's got to be in the battle. It's got to be in the paid battle pass. That's what I think. There's no way that
they'll do what they do for heroes. It's like you there's a free track to
The
unlock.
off
That would be
seasons.
received really badly though if they did that. That would not be received well. But I think they just keep it on the free side, or if you buy it, you just have it instantly. If you buy the battle pass, I really hope I
With
just
the
did not
non-hero
get that
seasons.
idea.
Paid battle pass non-hero seasons.
well, at the moment, the mission's tied to the new hero as well. So maybe that smooths it over better. But dude, they already can't sustain it. How are they going to make it free? I just don't see any world where that's the case. I think it's going to be you got to buy the premium battle pass. That's what I bet to get access to it.
The thing is, though, what SVB talks about earlier. Why is there interest in paying for content that's been watered down already to that level to pay for it on a seasonal basis? Because then I guess you have to get people interested in the story somehow. The first hit's got to be free. That's how I feel about it. To get people in.
For sure.
Yeah,
So, and I can't really change it, so I don't know.
Yeah, even just from a goodwill POV, like the other thing is like it's not just about money, but money is important. But like there's also like I feel like the currency of time is very severely undervalued in all of this. Where it's like if you're like I struggle to play all the games I want to play, and I play video games for a living. So like I can only imagine for someone who's like I have a few hours a day a week to play a game, and you're looking for like a very satisfying PvE experience. Like I'm genuinely worried like how many people are going to be like, yeah, let me you know, even if it wasn't $10, but even if it was $10, like I want to pay $10 for like a couple half-assed Overwatch 2 missions, or would I rather dump $40 on Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom, or like, you know, Elden Ring, and actually get like hundreds of hours of great quality content I know is going to keep me satisfied for ages. So like I am genuinely a little bit worried that the currency of time is not being respected when you give people like, it's sort of a thing you can play for a bit. Like we're competing against some big fucking hitters. Those
are more expensive though. It's not 40. It's
it
like
is.
The new games are 70 nowadays. My main defense of this is the one I said originally many podcasts ago. But like when I pay a small bit for a little Hearthstone mission, I thought those were really fun. I haven't played all of them, but the ones that I did do, I was like really happy with my purchase and experience. So I also said this is not creating a new, player base like it could have if it was, Elden Ring. Like if they dropped the Overwatch version of Elden Ring or something, we're on a whole other conversation. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like the right scale, I think, to think of it is like those Hearthstone missions where it's pretty good for what it is and what you pay for. So that's my expectation. And with the way I'm dreaming it up, I think it's going to be good. I just don't think it's going to break the internet or anything like it could have if it was a bigger drop at once. Now, I'm really curious how they're going to handle, like, because Seagull sort of said, Destiny rotates content out. So it's like we get this hero mission for this season. Do you pay for it and then you always have access? That would be another thing. If it does rotate out, then that would suck to pay for it, and then you lose it. Like that doesn't make any sense. So maybe it is free, and I'm wrong. Well, that's like a DLC model, and like it takes a while for things to rotate out. But I'm not an expert on that game. That's how I believe it works. Like the original campaign got rotated out, and that caused a lot of backlash at the time. But they're like, the size of the game in terms of storage space was just too high. The rent is too high. I don't know how this is going to work. We have a lot of questions, man. I like speculating, and I'm at the end of my rope. So
more questions than answers at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is sadly just where we are. I think we don't know. Speculating about a couple things is fun, but speculating about 90% of this roadmap is now at that point we're just like, okay then.
Well, here's the good news, though. We've been using the analogy "rip off the Band-Aid," but this was more so rip off the I don't even know, the stitches.
The gangrene, bro. Cut the leg off.
The whole thing.
The whole leg came off.
We all didn't know, like, obviously what was happening, but like at least now they're on track with PvP stuff, and it's like when you get sick, and sometimes you just gotta, like, just get it over with, and it's just been a long time, and we've been sitting on the toilet a little sick, and we finally just, it's like me when I was younger, I put too much candy on my orange leaf and I tried to hold it down. It just didn't work, right? It was tough to, I put everything in the store in there, and it was worth the effort. Just don't do that at home. And you just eventually gotta let it go. And it was kind of like,
bro,
what the fuck are you talking
about? You guys never go to like a frozen yogurt store and load it up with everything?
Oh, just you.
Are you taking a shit in the morning?
Just you.
No, it was.
What kind of yogurt are we talking? Like
it didn't make. I didn't make it. Just that's all we're gonna say.
So you made something. It sounds like.
Yeah. Just But it's out of the way, right? We were gonna be sick for a couple days after, kind of like me. I had to crack some soup, and then. I wanted the Pop-Tarts, okay? I wanted the Pop-Tarts, and I probably wouldn't do it again. But regardless, it's done, and we're focused on. I told you guys I'd be back with my analogies by the end of the podcast. I was a lot lost for words to start, but we're back.
What?
We've now officially reached the part of the podcast where Samito's lost his mind, and I think that's a good point to reach concluding thoughts. So. I mean, I don't, again, you guys know I like to kind of try and be optimistic. I don't know if there's like a big optimistic slant I can put to this, but I'll just say, like, yeah, I mean, what do where does this leave you as a person, as an individual? Where does this leave you feeling about Overwatch and its sort of future, both in the immediate, in what we're seeing in this roadmap, but also big picture? Let's start with Freedo.
Somewhat disappointing, but I respect them for making the hard decisions that they didn't really make for a while, it seems, back in the day. So I feel like I know what the game is now. And before we had like this big hope and wonder that there was a bunch hiding behind the the curtain, and they're like, actually, we just scrapped all that, and well, now we know what we got, and we know what game we have, and I think I personally will be interested in the things that they are adding. So I'm not like overly pessimistic, but we all know the heights this game could have reached if they executed on the different plan. So that's pretty much it. I'm not too sad, just disappointed, I guess, of the lost potential.
Oh, I'm not sad. I'm just disappointed, man. This is the parent analogy again that Sam talked about. They're coming home with the B's instead of the A's. It's like, I'm not sad. C's. I'm not. For me, it was B's. I'm an Asian kid, right? So B's were the end of the world for me. But like, I'm not sad. That's literally what my mother said. I think was like, I'm not sad. I'm just disappointed. So Freedo just triggered some like buried memories, and I'm like, oh shit, this is bad.
That's even worse. That's what he's trying to say. It's like we don't even have the energy to be super mad about it. It's just like apathy and depression instead.
True. Flats, speaking of apathy and depression, that expression certainly speaks volumes.
I mean, realistically, this has changed my whole way I'm going to approach Overwatch from the future, to be honest. It kind of feels like the last bit of passion probably got sucked out with this because we're not having crazy expectations. We were promised a lot of this shit. And a lot of people hung around and waited in Overwatch 1, myself included, hoping that those promises would be fulfilled. A lot of us went to bat on a lot of different things, especially before Overwatch 2 came out. Talked about how the game was going to be good. Talked about, and even to this day, I still agree with it in some ways, other than the hero stuff. Like the battle pass is like, okay, it's like not that bad. Like there was a lot of things that a lot of people kind of stuck their neck out for, and a lot of shit in this game, and a lot of understanding. And I think players, streamers, creators, pro players, I think we have done more than our due diligence of giving them a leeway and a little extra rope and a little bit of, hey, we understand through all the stuff that's happened over the last few years, because there's been a lot. And I feel like we just kind of hit the end of it where we're asking for more slack. Like, well, we just couldn't do it. It's like, I feel like a lot of people have kind of given as much good faith as they can. And I feel if there's one thing to kind of look at as like the straw that might have broke the camel's back for most people, this could possibly be it. And the only way you get out of this is by simply making better content. And if they somehow picked up their content strategy and it became a lot better and their seasons hit a lot better and the PvE plus PvP stuff started doing a lot better, that could probably reverse it. But we have nothing to suggest that they are able to do that right now. So my expectations will live over there.
Dude, that's reminded me of something that I meant to say on the show. You're so right, man, because I feel like they sold us this dream that the battle pass and all the monetization was also going to do this other thing we wanted, or they said they were going to do. So it feels super scummy, to be honest. Like that I actually am mad about, because
there's a lot of people stuck their neck out.
Oh yeah,
shit.
The guy talking. Yeah, I know. I did stick my neck out, and I feel like we got a bait and switch on this, because hopefully it's as good as I dream it could be. These missions that they're doing, but it feels like a very similar Bobby Kotick, like, oh, the Overwatch League is going to make billions of dollars, like get your money in now, and then it goes on the tubes later. It's like the same thing. It's like, we've got this big vision. Of course, they didn't tell us what the PvE was looking at. Like, it's like, buy the battle passes now, because we're working towards this other thing. We'll just stay silent on it. It's not okay to do this. It's not okay to whiplash us like this, where you're building us in one way, and then all of a sudden you're changing gears. That sucks, man. That's a really scummy thing to do. Even if it's the right decision, that's the thing. It's like, even if this is the best thing to do, it's just it's disingenuous. Because you of course they didn't front load that things were looking shaky at any point. It's just like, we don't know until it's too late, which I guess is common in corporate America. That's the way it always works. It's like, well, we're building this company, we're building this game, and it's like, it's been failing for years. That's what it means. They had no momentum really to make it the thing they wanted to make it. Because if they could have salvaged it, maybe they could have won another way. This was the only route they had. This probably was the best decision, but anyway, sorry. I just wanted to whine for a second. My apathy changed to anger and actual, anger.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point you make, because especially because we've all been there as content creators where you stick your neck out defending something like a battle pass or this model, and then you get called a shill. But it is a good place to bring up that, like, yeah, they sold all these like founder bundles and everything under the promise of like, this is what Overwatch 2 is, get in early and you're going to love the PvE experience. And then to kind of be, I mean, I would like to think that they didn't do it deliberately, that it was, again, like Freedo said, oh, well, at the last minute they had to decide, crap, we can't deliver what we're doing, let's change the thing. And oops, sorry guys, but damn, does it leave a lot of ill will. And ill will seems to be the modus operandi of Activision Blizzard at the moment. Like, is anyone out there a cheerleader anymore? Is anyone out there happy? Plan. Yeah, literally. Like, I was thinking about tweeting this today, but I was like, having attached myself to Blizzard games like a Blizzard fanboy from a young age, now feels like the guy who was trying to back Sega when like Sony and Xbox were rising or something, right? It's like you're just like
You don't get it. The Dreamcast has great games. It's got online.
Right? It's like you've attached yourself to this ship that's like, no, guys, it's over. It's done. Like the era is over. Like the Roman Empire is falling, and you better be ready to abandon ship.
We've officially hit the iceberg.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a whole other tangent I want to go on, but I want to let Samito go. Samito, your concluding thoughts and where it leaves you.
You know, I think hitting the iceberg's the best saying. I think today is the day that Activision Blizzard has. I think everyone can collectively look and say that they've lost the trust of the gaming industry. I mean, I already kind of felt that way with Warzone 2, but I was holding out because I wanted to give them a good chance to like really showcase the PvE and what was promised. But this company's let down their gamers. They've let down their consumers. You know, I heard Diablo 4 is good, but which is good for them. You know, I've heard good things about Diablo. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you know, personally, I just can't look past this. I'm still gonna play Overwatch and enjoy it, but like, it's never gonna like to me, it's just never gonna be that tier 1 title for it that it once was. Like to me, it's gonna be like a tier 2 title, which is fine. That's sustainable and that's like fun to play. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy playing it, but you know, it kind of just is what it is there. And could it get back one day? Sure. But I can't, after this point, put good faith into this company anymore. I just can't do it. Like to me, like today's announcement settled that I don't think Overwatch 2 ever should have happened. Ever. I think that this was the main justification to me was getting the PvE trees, getting all of this stuff that was going to be like the Borderlands, the promise that was made. And honestly, like, I think at this point, pointing the fingers at who's accountable or whatever, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It is what it is. And I commend the team for having the courage to come out and do this. It needed to happen. And obviously, best of luck going forward. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I hope the game dies. No, dude, this game has been fantastic. I still think it has the best game atmosphere of a shooter that I've loved. I love the pacing of it. I love like just the visuals, how characters feel. And it really is a testament to how great of a IP Overwatch is. The fact that it's been through all this mud and yet you can still hop on and enjoy a couple of your favorite characters, right? That's something special. And that really shows that, you know, it had something great and still has a part of it that still has that shine. But you know, it's just it's the Activision Blizzard is the 2017 EA. It just, but worse. It just kind of is. Remember the we want our players to feel rewarded as we make you buy like the pay to win stuff in Star Wars, right? Right. It is what it is, man. And maybe if this Microsoft acquisition does end up going through, that we'll see some changes to the philosophy. And I think
I'm tired of that copium, Sam. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, this feels maybe. Like the PvE again.
Tired of it.
But I'm past the point of caring. I'm past the point of caring anymore. My expectations are Flats. I can't do it. Do it for me.
Mine's right there.
Yeah.
No, there looks like there's another spot over here. You want this one?
Yeah, give me that one.
Yeah, we can be roommates. I'll be over here.
I want to be in the shadow though, because that's where my heart is.
Oh, you want
to?
Okay, so you want up here? You can be over here.
Yeah, perfect.
Let's go with you,
man.
Or do you?
The Borderlands stand. I'll go way out there.
I'll go way out there.
I'll be over there waiting for Borderlands 4 to get my fill. Nah, man. I guess this would have been the perfect thing for me because I loved Borderlands so much. I loved Overwatch so much, and I'm just heartbroken. But you know, I'm used to it. You just listen. Sometimes life deals you a shitty hand, and you just got to work with what you get, and that's all you got to do. So, is what it is.
Seagull, I want your thoughts now. Is again just what do you feel about all this?
I'm not that surprised, actually. I think I'm a lot more cynical than you guys. I actually called this 7 months ago in my original video, if you remember. I said, yeah, they're going to cut up the campaign, put it in seasons. And I literally put that in my video. I think I'm a lot more cynical than you guys. So when I see stuff like this, like I think the real sad part about all this isn't the fact that like I think it'll be bad or like horrible for the franchise or any of this. Because I think everyone can kind of see the effects of, you know, it is extremely disappointing and everyone knows. The bigger thing is just the big question mark in my mind of like, why was it? Because in my mind, there's very obviously the different path, which would to be what? This isn't like a small indie company. We make memes about it. Is it really that difficult to have a second team work on it in the background for a long period of time and still have a live service PvP game going on and actually have 2 full teams? Why is that impossible? You could be saying like, oh, it's the world right now, you know? Tech companies having layoffs everywhere, right? We're worried about inflation, this and that. They can come up with a million things, but ultimately, this is something that a lot of people want. And I think it's going to be very, very depressing to see it kind of boil down to the hopes and dreams of all of these. Basically, what I thought would be a really interesting PvE game with Overwatch mechanics into seasonal mission types that I'll probably stop playing after like an hour or two. I'm still gonna play them. I'll probably really enjoy them because I don't have any doubts as to the quality. That's actually why I was interested in it to begin with, because I know they can do it. They have all of the talent to pull it off. It just seems like they don't have the resources to commit to building it. And so instead, you have one team doing 2 games. And so they're like, we can't do 2 games. We just kind of have to compromise and just try and do it. It's like, yeah, I know where you're at, but it shouldn't be like that. But I know why you're doing it. So for me personally, I mean, I played Overwatch. I mean, as long as I guess any of you guys have at this point, right? Like 7. I mean, I've been playing since
longer,
2015. I've been playing since 2015. So I've played off and on since 2015. I've pretty much had my fill of PvP. Like I'll go on binges occasionally. I'll check out all the new seasons, new characters, stuff like that. But I'm not a super hardcore dedicated player. Like I see Samito go for rank 1. I don't think I have that bone in my brain anymore. I pick Junkrat and I get into Overwatch League players on me, and then they completely steamroll me and they take my SR. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna pick Torb on your next game, buddy. And then that's like, that's my rank. I'm just sitting there. I just meme and I have a good time. And like I don't know, when I think about like super long term what I wanted to play a lot, right? To me, PvE was kind of, I was thinking, PvP, I've done this for so long. I don't know if there's anything super interesting here that I have personal goals left for in the game. What do I want to get? Like maybe I go top 500. This character's like, yeah, I've probably done it already, but sure, I can go do it again. Something really new and interesting in Overwatch was going to be PvE for me. And now that's kind of gone. It's very disappointing because now I'm looking at it going, all right, so I guess now I'm just going to kind of log in and just stop by Overwatch. But I don't think I don't know if I can necessarily play it all the time because I don't know if they want me to. So it's definitely strange in that way.
It's a very interesting point about like, well, do they even want me to? Because again, we can often get wrapped up in this like, well, our POV of like, this is what we are as content creators, but like, yeah, maybe they don't really care about having. No, and when I say I don't care, like they don't care, people often interpret that to be like they literally give 0 fucks. No, I mean I'm sure they'd want content creators to play this game all the time, but it's not a priority. It's not. If you don't care enough, then it's like it doesn't matter. Like they don't care enough about it being like the modus operandi that people should be grinding this game. Maybe that's fine. They're fine with like the Seagull mod. Maybe the Seagull model is the way. It's like, yeah, he pops in and he plays a new season, the new heroes. All right, he's done. That's great. We got the battle pass. We got a couple skins out of him. Like, all good. That's fine. Doesn't really bother us if he doesn't play for the entire rest of the season. Like that's fine. So
let's answer the real question. The answer is they don't give a shit. They never have. Like, I mean, like you want a good example? That drop program kind of disappeared, right? Like magically overnight, and we have drops right now, but they're pretty bad. That was kind of keeping
yes,
YouTube streamer unlucky. That was kind of keeping the creator economy, at least for Twitch, kind of afloat. And I mean, like real talk, like you got to wonder sometimes, is like. Maybe it would even be better if we didn't have the voices we have, because then they could kind of be a little bit louder with their own message, if that makes any sense. So I don't know. I think the answer there is definitely no. There's definitely like a lot of good people that want the best for us, but like as a corporation, as a company, yeah, they don't give a shit. Never have.
And I don't want to like. I'm just really thinking about it. I don't really necessarily want to hijack this point because I think it's a very relevant point, but it kind of leads so well into my own personal experience with Overwatch recently that I feel like I should bring it up, which is that again, I if any of you have been following like my social media or Twitter, you'll know that I've already been dissatisfied with Overwatch before this whole announcement. Like I was already not in a very happy place, kind of starting from something that kind of just made me realize, like Flats is kind of saying like they don't care about us as content creators, made me realize that Overwatch doesn't really care about, well, me as someone from a minority background, and I think other people as well. And I just will bring this point up because for those who haven't seen the clip, I was in a game the other day. Some guys like in voice chat starts yelling the N-word at me for like 2 minutes straight because he knows me, knows I'm a streamer. He's just like, SEB, you know, N, you ugly, tranny, blah, 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 blah. Like all the hateful, the most hateful shit you could say. Drops it in team chat too, is calling me the N-word. And I report this guy in the game. Nothing that tells me that he's gonna be banned or anything. Rest of the night, I'm seeing him in my games. Hours later, he's still in my games, still trash talking me at enemy side, still calling me the N-word. I reported this to the devs directly. Logged in the next day, didn't get any message to say that he'd been actioned upon. Didn't get an email, and this is something that's not new, obviously. This is something that's been a known issue. And myself personally, I told them 2 years ago, I shared a clip with them and back, it's not a new thing to be called the N-word or slurred regularly. That's not a new occurrence to anyone who has to face it. But I remember 2 years ago putting a clip in the Content Creator Discord being like, hey guys, really simple request. Can people just not say the N-word in team chat? I know I'm asking a lot here. I know you guys filter GG easy. How would you like to filter the N-word? How about would that be helpful? And other games do this. FireX, another content creator today, shared on Twitter that she was she was in a game, she's getting sexually just harassed for being a girl basically, and she reported the guy, and she was like, well, I was waiting 5 minutes to dodge him in the next game, and in that 5 minutes I got a message from Valorant saying your report was actioned upon, and that guy was penalized. So other games do this, and they do it well. But after years of asking, I'm tired, man. I'm after years of asking, I'm tired of just the basic bare minimum, really. And again, I don't want to stress on this point too much, but I also feel like it's important for me to say this as one of the only prominent non-white creators around. That it's just not. It's not it's not about, because a lot of people be like, well, just mute and move on, and why do you care? Because everyone gets flamed in a video game. It's not really about getting flamed, because I get flamed plenty, and my gameplay justifies a lot of it. But it's a whole nother thing, being slurred, because you live your life just trying to be a normal person. You're I'm just a normal person like everyone else. And then something comes along when you're from a background like mine, where you're kind of reminded that for a large section of people you're subhuman, essentially. That for a large section of people, your very life, your rights are they're like that. They can be snapped away at any point. I know that I felt this at Brexit when I'm being told to go back home as an immigrant in the country that I live in, and I'm being told that I'm not welcome. And I know people feel it across the world. I know people who are trans who feel this in America. I feel there's black people who feel this in America, where they feel their livelihoods, their lives, women, their rights can be taken away at any moment. And just when I play video games, I don't want to be reminded of that. I don't want to be reminded that for a large section of people, I'm subhuman, and that my rights are whimsical to the wills of some bad politician, some bad faith actor. So it's really I just really feel it's not a hard ask to ask Overwatch to protect people like that, and just make it so that we can just play the game without being reminded of that. But clearly it's too much. Clearly this is these basic protections can't even be put in. And at that point, I have to ask, why do I spend my time in this game? Why do I dedicate myself to this game when this game won't even give me the most basic of human decency to be able to play the game without that confronting me all the time? So apologies for the rant, but that's what
it's
I'm
not
at.
hard to filter the N-word. It's not hard to filter the N-word. I don't get it.
You want to know something?
Mm-hmm.
The guy who discovered the Sigma glitch?
Mm-hmm.
That guy got banned in less than 12 hours.
I know he did. And people...
he got permabanned, didn't he? He got permabanned.
On not only his main, but his alt account as well. They got both of them.
Really? I didn't know there was the alt. Okay.
They were in my chat and they were asking me to help, and I was like, I don't have the power, dude. I felt bad. I was like, I feel for you. That was actually the same day I had basically months of donations got refunded, so I was not having a good day, and I was like, bro, I wish I could help, but I got nothing. They don't listen. That was a problem we had in Overwatch 1. There was one game we had something similar to that SVV with 4 streamers in the game. Nothing ever happened.
And it is disappointing. For all the reasons that I love Overwatch, there's so many reasons to feel dissatisfied, to feel like the game doesn't love me back. And I know people feel that in different ways. The PvE audience probably feels that today. Content creators feel that today. As someone from minority background, I felt this for a while, and you kind of accept it and you tolerate it for a while. But then after a while, how many times are you going to get slurred before you're like, wow, I just wish they would punish this guy in some way and not let him play for the rest of the night?
And that's one of the main things they marketed as a system to be one of the improvements for the game as well. So quite a letdown on their stated goals. And That's one of the things that was supposed to be part of the 2. I thought that.
Oh God.
That was
that we ain't got
Defense
nothing else.
Matrix log, right?
Yeah, that's a whole pillar of what the 2 is supposedly.
Yeah,
It's hard.
I don't know. I feel like it's not hard to filter some of those words out. GG Easy's been filtered since 2016. We can, find a way to filter that. It shouldn't be difficult. It shouldn't be difficult.
No. And again, it feels like one of those things where it's like I'm sure there's individuals who care. I'm sure there's people who are important to, but whoever's making the decisions doesn't care enough. So if you don't care enough to do something about it, you don't care at all in my book. So that's this, unfortunately, the sour note I'll leave my POV on, which is that I was already not super happy with Overwatch, so this is just like, oh, okay, then I guess that's it. But there's still a game that's dear to my heart, maybe my favorite game ever. So it's not like I'm not gonna not play it. I'm still gonna love it, still gonna tune in. But yeah, what can you do? Feels like not the brightest time to be. That's why also we haven't hosted a podcast in a while, because I was like, I don't really want to log on the podcast and just be like, I'm not happy with Overwatch. But then they dropped this news, and well,
It's hard not to cover it. Yeah.
No, and it feels like that's where everyone's at right now. So I hope we have better news, fellas. I hope we have better days, and I hope that maybe when season 5 drops, we're really happy with the stacks or whatever, and whatever content that comes, and this mischief and magic, whatever it's called, is the dopest shit around. I continue to wish the absolute best for Overwatch, as I'm sure we all do. I don't think there's a single one of us who'd be like, I want Overwatch to fall and burn. Like, those creators already left. Those guys who were like, I want it to fail, they stopped a long time ago.
They left and they're all like, CSGO 2, let's go. It's like...
So yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
man.
any thoughts before we head out of here, guys? Anything you want to add that hasn't been discussed?
I'm gonna teach us all one thing that maybe will help us in our darkest times. It is what it is.
It is what it is. So the gang, as always, Flats, Freedo, and Samito, thank you so much for coming. And a special thanks to Freedo, to Seagull, hopping in and sort of short notice. Seagull, thank you for your time. You gave us so much of it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I hope you've you've taken this news better than most as a cynical self, so you're not too bad.
I'm really disappointed, but yeah. It might maybe hit a little more later. I haven't decided yet. We'll see how it feels in the long run, you know?
Yeah.
Wait, is this mean that there might be a follow-up video coming?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how to write one right now. That's my brain.
I told you so, Seagull.
I was
You
right.
know, the saddest part about all this, Freedo, is you remember at BlizzCon 2019 when we were hanging out and we had that conversation about how I was worried they were going all in on PvE? And then they
Right
did.
as always, bro. Right as always.
Dude, no, it's not about the right as always. I was just like, I don't know why. I don't know. They're just a weird company. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Them neither, bro.
Overwatch devs like,
I don't
me
have any-
either, bro.
It's a strange world.
You know it's bad when there's a Ludwig and Moist video already out. I already got
Yeah.
more React content.
People
Oh,
are already
really?
telling me.
Yeah.
People are already telling me like these videos are out. Okay, well, weird company is, I think, as good a point to leave it as we can. So as always, thank you so much, guys. Please show these guys some love. Thanks for joining me for an awesome episode of the podcast. Hopefully we'll have better things to talk about in the future. But for now, peace out and have a great rest of your day.